Hey guys. You are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see what if Deku activated cursed energy quirk. Here is short summary. Izuku Midoriya is born into a world, with a story over 1,000 years in the making. With lightning in his veins, and 2 legacies on his shoulder, this is his tale. Or, I brutally mashed the MHA and JJK worlds together into a stupid mishmash, while giving Izuku Kashimo's powers in turn. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Quirks, a mystery, given to humanity one day, in which the irregular became the regular. From the day the glowing baby was born in Kiki City in China, nothing was ever the same. Some people believed they were a gift from God, others believed they were the next step in humanity's evolution. The truth, however, was known to only one group. For this certain group, quirks had been the norm for over 1,000 years. No one knew who they were, nor were they written down in history. They manipulated the world from behind the veil, yet suddenly disappeared. But their story, and mine, had just begun. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and this is the story of how I became the greatest hero to ever exist. Dash 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 dash. Inko Midoriya breaths heavily. What she had just been through could only be described as feeling like torture. But, at least, it was finally over. She hears the doctor say something, but doesn't quite pick up what it was. Said doctor was a colleague of hers, and was currently holding a newborn, who was looking like he was having the time of his life, his hands trying to reach for the doctor's mask. The doctor repeats himself after realizing Inko hadn't heard him. Do you want to hold him, Miss Midoriya? Inko nods immediately, holding out her hands for the baby. He puts him gently in her hands, but what feels like a shock runs through her, causing her to flinch. The doctor keeps the infant steady, looking at Inko in concern. Are you sure you are all right, Miss Midoriya? Yes, don't worry about it. Just a bit of static electricity. She quickly thinks back to the feeling of giving birth, and connects something. Weirdly enough, I also felt this weird static shock while I was going through the process. Isn't that a weird coincidence? She knows that isn't normal. She is a doctor herself after all, but the delirium must still be getting to her. The doctor took in the information, before realizing what exactly could be happening. Miss Midoriya, does anybody in your family have any quirks connected with electricity? No, my quirk lets me levitate small objects and my husband's quirk. She takes a second pause, not wanting to think about what happened. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with electricity. Very well. However, I would still like to perform a quirk test on your child, if that is all right with you, of course. After all, we can never know what sort of quirk mutations could appear. The doctor explains, then waits for her answer. Inko contemplates for a moment, before nodding. Very well, just please don't take too long. She thinks, before asking for something else. Also, in the case he does have an electricity-based quirk, could you please give me a pair of rubber gloves? I do want to hold my boy after all. The doctor chuckles, giving her an affirmative, before leaving the room, the newborn child with him. Inko fully lays down, before closing her eyes. A short nap wouldn't hurt. About 30 minutes later, the doctor comes back into the room, with the feeling of having witnessed something marvelous. Miss Midoriya, please wake up, he whispers, gently nudging the sleeping woman. It takes a moment, but Inko wakes up eventually. She looks at the doctor, waiting for him to tell her about what happened. Well, Miss Midoriya, I have some shocking news for you. Was that supposed to be a joke? Not funny. Oh, sorry. The doctor coughed into his elbow, before quickly continuing with the explanation. Well, we did a couple of tests, but except for the static electricity, nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. Until we decided to do a blood test. The doctor takes in a breath, before explaining. Miss Midoriya, your son has lightning in his veins. Dot 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 dot. Also, here are the gloves you requested. Dash 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 dash. An almost 4-year-old Izuku Midoriya is literally vibrating with excitement, hand in hand with his mother. Oh, do you think his quirk would be as cool as mine? Maybe he could shoot out water from his hands. Or breathe flames. Maybe he could be able to fly, super strength, or maybe he laugh. He isn't able to finish his mumbling storm though, as his mother pinches his cheeks. Calm down, Izuku, we'll find out eventually. Katsuki's quirk could not even manifest fully today. You never know what could happen. She hoped this could calm him down, because as much as she loved her baby boy, his hyperactivity was too much sometimes. Quite literally. Electricity started to leak out of him from time to time. I knew Mom, but imagine how cool it would be. Izuku and Kacchan, the greatest heroes ever. As his excitement continues to skyrocket, little sparks start flying off of him. Inko looks slightly worried, before chuckling. He could be such a handful at times, but he was absolutely the cutest little overexcited kid in the world. Although she should probably calm him down, Mistuki and Masaru's house was in sight. Now Izuku, you still have quite a lot of time before any of that can happen. Izuku pouts in return, muttering an, I know, before letting go of her hand and running to the front door of the house and knocking on it. It opens just as Inko reaches him, revealing the father and son of the Bakugo family. Ah, Inko, Izuku, come in. We are almost done with the food. He sidestepped from the entrance of the house, allowing Katsuki to grab Izuku by the shirt and start dragging him to his room. Katsuki, don't do that, let him walk normally. His father calls out, but it doesn't seem like the kid heard him. Sigh, oh well, please do come in, Inko. Masaru and Inko enter the house, moving towards the dining room. At the same time, however, Izuku and Katsuki were talking in Katsuki's room. And did you see what he did after that? The villain was all like, ha ha ha, no one can defeat me. And then All Might appeared and was all like, I am here, and the villain, just passed out just from seeing him. It was so cool, Izuku explains, making motions with the action figure in his hand. I know, right, just his presence alone caused the villain to give up. That's what we're striving for, don't forget. We're going to be the strongest heroes ever. Katsuki says, before the two scream, together. Katsuki, quiet down, I can hear you from the kitchen. Shut up, you old hag. Katsuki screams back, before going back to playing with his best friend. You really shouldn't scream at your mom like that. It's not very heroic now, is it? Izuku says, a grin on his face. Katsuki clicks his tongue, before flicking his forehead, inadvertently shocking himself. Oh shush, you overgrown battery. The two continue playing for a while, before their mothers call them down from the dining room to go have dinner. They eat quickly, earning themselves a scolding from their parents, wanting to get to the main event, presents. So, which one should I open first? Katsuki ponders. There weren't many presents, only 3 of them in fact, but each one had a different shape and size. He continues to think about it, before feeling his best friend creep behind him and push him towards a small package, wrapped in lime green paper, obviously from the Midoriya family. He decides to humor him, grabbing the gift and tearing it open, revealing a Silver Age All Might action figure. No way, how did you know I wanted this one? He asks, looking at the greenette. Izuku chuckles, before explaining. Every time I'm at your house, I notice that you have both a Bronze and Gold Age All Might figures, but not a Silver Age one, so I asked Mom to buy it. He says, proud of his observation skills. Katsuki smiles, before giving his hand out for a high five. Izuku smiles back at him, before giving each other a high five. Ouch! Ugh! They both grunt, flinching back in pain. Katsuki looks down at his hand, noticing a small electric burn. Yeah, that tracks. However, what was up with Izuku's reaction? He's also holding his hand as if he had been burned as well. That's when he notices Izuku had been burned. But how? His lightning had never hurt him before, so what exactly happened? He flexes his palm, trying not to think about the pain, when he hears a slight popping sound coming from it. He looks down and notices small explosions coming from his palms. Wait. Oh hell yeah, I got my quirk. Best birthday ever, he says, throwing his hands up, his hands acting like big sparklers. Izuku looks at him, immediately forgetting the pain and starts vibrating like crazy. Electricity starts bouncing around him, as the two kids look at each other in excitement, their parents slightly more concerned in the background. This is so cool, and as he says this, a bolt of lighting shoots out of Izuku, hitting the lamps and immediately frying them. He looks back towards the adults, his mother has her head in her hands, while the Bakugos look shocked, no pun intended. Oh, oops. ... I promise I'll pay for the lights. No, don't worry about it, we needed to change them anyway, we just have to change them sooner now. Dash 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 dash. That's it boys, stop for now. Oh, what, come on auntie. The two early teens groaned, because even though they were tired, they felt like they could go for a few more rounds. No ifs, ands or buts, you two have been sparring for over 4 hours now, you need a break. Says Inko. She had been there to watch over them, just in case they took it too far. And even though the surrounding warehouse looked like a war zone, the teens themselves were mostly fine, except for the burns all around their bodies. Please auntie, I was just starting to feel the fever. Katsuki exclaims, not wanting to let go of the thrill of battle. Izuku nods behind him, running over to his phone to turn off the music he had been playing. Inko, however, refuses to budge. Absolutely not. Now you two are coming with me to the hospital to treat those burns. Do you have any idea how much they could mess you up in the future? She says, exasperated with the battle junkies. We get it mom, you say this every month when we have these matches. And with good reason. Sigh. I know, Izuku says, sad that this month's match ended, especially since Bakugo had won 1 round more this time. No matter, he'll get him next month. So, that makes us 12-11 in monthly fights now, Izuku. Guess you have to play catch up now. Bakugo taunts, very happy with the information. Izuku, in turn, flicks Bakugo's forehead, shooting a spark at the same time. Oh hush you overgrown Pomeranian, we'll be 13/12ths for me in 2 months, and you won't be able to do anything about it. Bakugo smirks back at him, ready to accept the challenge. Alright, bet, you're on, you living generator. Boys, in the car, now. Yes, mom, auntie. They mumbled, following behind her, while still poking each other with their quirks. Inko sighs, tired with their nonsense, but at least they were having fun. Who knows? These practice matches would probably help them in their future as pro heroes. Izuku would especially need it if he ever ran into him. Chapter text. Izuku yawns, continuing to write down his notes on the newest pro hero, MT. Lady. While her quirk seemed flashy and appealing to the public, it was limiting. Sure, it seemed to make her very strong, so it could be useful against large-scale villains and rescue work. In any closed space scenarios it would be completely useless. Although she's most likely trained in hand-to-hand combat, so it's most likely fine. Still there's a cha. He looks down and notices that there is a note thrown on his desk. He opened it up to read what it said and chuckled under his breath. You're mumbling, nerd, with a small caricature of one stick figure blowing up another. He looks up to Kachan, who had been looking towards him before smirking and turning back towards the front of the classroom. At that time, the teachers came in, with Izuku ignoring him for a moment. He still needed to finish these notes. However, he starts paying attention again when his whole class has an outburst and the teacher makes them calm down. Yes, you all have amazing quirks, but do try not to break the law, alright? Izuku tries to figure out what they were talking about, when he notices a familiar stack of papers on the teacher's desk. Oh, so high school applications. That was fine. He just hoped Katsuki wouldn't. Don't lump Izuku and me with the rest of these third-rate wannabes. Of course, what else was he expecting? This caused an uproar with his class, but the teacher quickly shut them up. Ah yes, you and Midoriya want to enter Uehai, correct Bakugo? The teacher asks, even though he already knew the answer. We not only want to enter it, we know for a fact we're gonna do it and become the next symbols of peace. Katsuki explains, standing up on his desk and leering at his classmates. Izuku facepalms, not in the slightest surprised this had happened. However, he couldn't miss the opportunity to tease his best friend. Oh come on Kachan, we both know I'll be the number one, with you my faithful sidekick. You'd make a great Robin to my Batman, he says, trying not to burst out laughing. Katsuki looks back at him, mouths, you're a dead man, before sitting back down on his chair, because the teacher told him so that class could continue. Izuku continues his routine of not listening to his teacher and writing down some more hero notes in his 13th installment of Hero Analysis for the Future, until he hears the bell. As he's packing his things, he notices that his mother had texted him. Mom, Izuku, be a dear and go buy some rice and peppers from the store please. Me, sure thing Mom, is there anything else you need? I'm free today so I can go just about anywhere. Mom, oh well, in that case, I have a package I need to pick up from the mail. Could you please go grab it? Mom, you need to go through that tunnel near your school if you have forgotten. Me, I remember, don't worry. Me, I'll go grab it as well, don't worry Mom. Mom, thank you, Izu, I love you. Me, love you too, I'll see you in about an hour. Oi, battery boy, he looks up, noticing Bakugo standing over his desk. Don't think I forgot what you said earlier. Want to try and prove it? He said, small pops coming from his palms. It was obvious what he wanted from him. Sorry Kachan, Mom asked me to go run some errands for her, we can fight later today. Izuku explained. His friend immediately stops leering down at him, but instead starts shooing at him. Nah, we can do it tomorrow. No go faster you dork, don't keep Auntie waiting longer than she has to. Katsuki says, pushing his friend off of his chair and out of the door. I'll be at the arcade downtown if you want to hang out when you're done, but now go. I get it, I get it. You can stop pushing me now. However, in their haste to leave the classroom, neither noticed Izuku left his notebook on his desk. This little action would cause a spiral of events no one could have ever predicted. Dash 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 dash. Hey, get back here. Thief, thief. A short woman screams, pointing towards a sludge-like substance slithering towards a nearby manhole. Oh come on, is there really no hero nearby? As she says this, a skeletal-looking man buffs up, before calling out. Ha ha ha, have no fear lady. All Might says, his signature grin on his face, for I am here. Dash 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 dash. As Izuku was walking towards the post office, he started thinking about what had happened earlier. While yes, he was fairly certain he could get in, his quirk was strong and him and Katsuki trained quite a lot. There was always something more he could do. Perhaps he could try thinking up of some maximum techniques. He already had some ideas, but he had never had the time to practice them, nor anything he could practice on. He would figure something out. The tunnel was in sight now and he had this absolutely awful feeling, like entering the tunnel would be an incredibly terrible idea. So, of course, he went right in. He passed by a manhole cover, not thinking anything about it until he suddenly heard it being thrown upwards. Ah, a medium-sized skin suit, so that was what this terrible feeling was. He quickly turns around and the thing that greets him almost makes him gag. It's a giant blob, made up of what looks like sewer sludge, with bulbous eyes and a giant maw, smiling at him. Now stand still, this will only take a moment. It says, as if he would ever listen to it. The sludge monster, not realizing it's about to make a mistake, charges forward, trying to capture the greenette. However, the impact never comes. The sludge villain looks around, wondering where the kid went, when suddenly, he hears something from behind him. Wow, you really at this whole villain thing, don't you? He's quick to look back, and sees the same kid he just tried to capture less than a second ago standing there, with what looks like electricity sparking off of him. Now, let's see if you can keep up. And in the next moment, Izuku's sparks burst out of him, ready for his first ever fight with a real villain. However, just before he can begin his attack, he hears the manhole behind him getting thrown upwards once again, followed by a voice he could recognize even in his sleep. "Have no fear, young man, for I am here," called out All Might, symbol of peace, the greatest hero to ever exist. Holy shit, he sees the man, no, legend, wind up his arm backwards, so he throws himself to the side just as All Might exclaims, "Texas Smash," and punches forward, creating a burst of wind so strong it scatters the sludge man all around the tunnel. Izuku sits there on the ground, shocked at the sheer power the man in front of him had. It was just so awesome, he exclaimed, shooting upwards and towards the pro hero. I see you are just fine, young man," All Might says, happy he hadn't hurt the kid. That would have been awful, and he wouldn't have forgiven himself for that. "Just fine. This is the greatest thing that has happened to me, ever. Man, Kachan will be so jealous when he finds out I met All Might himself." Izuku screams out, so excited little lightning bolts shoot out of him up towards the ceiling, accidentally destroying the lamps in the tunnel. "Oh come on, I thought I had control over this. It's nice to see you being so lively, young Midoriya." My name is Izuku Midoriya, All Might, sir." "Young Midoriya, but you see, I have to take this evildoer to the police now," the pro explained, patting a bottle in his pocket filled with the sludge-like villain. "Wow, you did it so fast I didn't even notice," the teenager exclaimed, not realizing the writer just forgot to mention it. But, can you give me an autograph, sir?" he asked, and at the hero's approval, he reaches into his backpack for his hero analysis for the future notebook. However, it wasn't there. I must have forgotten it at school. I can just run to it now and grab it, the guard should most likely have it. So, instead, he pulls out his math notebook, takes out a page from it and hands it and a pen to All Might. He quickly signs it, before giving it back to the fanboy. "Now then, young man, this is how a hero does an exit." And with that, All Might jumped straight out of the tunnel, in the direction of Izuku's school. So cool. Now back to school. I can't believe I forgot to grab it. I should probably text mom to tell her I'll be a bit later than I thought, but I'll be fine. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Dash 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 dash. Arghhh, just ing die already, Katsuki called out, mashing on the buttons of the arcade machine to continue doing his combo. This boss was such bullshit. How dare it have super armor? Who puts super armor on a fighting game boss? Thankfully, he was damn good at this game, and so with a final call of, he depletes the boss's health fully, flawlessly beating it. Young man, could you please quiet down? There are other people in this arcade," a worker said from nearby, having come to see what the noise was. Katsuki mumbled a quick, "Sorry," before walking away from the fighting game. Why did Izuku have to have plans today of all days? He's the only person as good as him at these things. He'll force him to play tomorrow. Now, he should probably go buy himself something for lunch. He exited the arcade and started walking towards a nearby food court, when he suddenly heard a roar from an alleyway nearby. A bestial man charges from it, before quickly starting to terrorize the people on the main street. A panic quickly erupted, but he just clicked his tongue. Oh great, another nut job who thinks they can do whatever they want. He's lucky it's illegal for me to fight him. As he thinks this, he walks in towards a different side alley, not noticing that a bottle of green sludge had just been pushed in after a skeletal-looking man was knocked over in the panic. He kicks said bottle, accidentally cracking it open. Too busy thinking about what hero would come to deal with the beast man, he doesn't realize that the sludge villain was just behind him, until it was already too late. Dash 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 dash. This is all my fault, thought one Toshinori Yagi. He was looking into an alley, blocked off to the public by the pro-hero backdraft, where a boy with ash blonde hair and what looked like an explosion-creating quirk was fighting off the villain he had captured earlier today. If I hadn't been weak enough to get knocked over, this would have never happened. If I hadn't used up my time, this would never have happened. If I wasn't such a failure, this never would have happened. In the chaos of the beast man attacking, he had tried to evacuate the civilians all around the street. He may have been out of time, but he was still a hero, damn it. But he had been knocked over, and next thing he knew, the bottles were gone. And now, because of his incompetence, a poor child is fighting for his life. And the worst thing, only a single hero had arrived so far. He had immediately called for backup, and in the couple of minutes since then, backdraft arrived and dealt with the bestial person, yet all he could do with the sludge monster was rescue the civilians and create a barrier around the incident. He guessed he couldn't do anything but hope. He had the strongest quirk in human history, and yet it's currently all for nothing. Perhaps a real hero would come and save the kid, though, not someone like himself. Dash 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 dash. No way his luck was this good today. After he had gotten his notebook from his school, he heard an explosion from a nearby alley, which meant only one thing. A villain attack was happening nearby. Izuku wondered which heroes would be there. Maybe Death Arms, or Kamui Woods, that would be awesome to see. Or perhaps he would see All Might again today, wouldn't that be a treat? And just as he rounds the corner, he notices the villain from earlier today. And he had his best friend captured. Before he could even process how the villain had escaped All Might himself, or what the hell he was doing, he jumped over Backdraft's barrier, ignoring his call to get back, running straight towards the slime villain. Wait, he needs a plan. What could he do? What could he do? That's when he noticed the villain's pretty obvious weak point, his eyes. If he could just shoot a bolt directly. That's it. Quickly looking for anything that could help him focus, he grabs a piece of rebar from nearby, charges it with his quirk and quickly shoots a lightning bolt straight into the villain's eyes, blinding him forever. Then, he quickly runs to his best friend, trying to pull him out of the monstrosity. Bakugo laughs out in delirium, incredibly happy to see his best friend at this time. I somehow knew I was gonna die looking at your stupid mug. You aren't dying on my watch, you idiot. In their banter, however, they don't notice the slime villain had grown his eyes back. Oh, so he wasn't blinded forever. Shit. Ah, the brat from earlier. Don't worry, you and your friend are gonna die together now, since All Might isn't here to save you now. And just as the villain was about to attack the two children, he arrived again. WHO said I'm not here anymore, villain. WHO said I'm not here to save these brave children from the likes of you. The symbol of peace exclaimed, ready to finish this monster once and for all. He readied his arm for a punch and exclaimed, Detroit Smash. Punching the villain so hard, he changed the weather. And in the chaos of all of this, All Might whispered something no one else heard. Thank you, young Midoriya. You've shown me what being a real hero truly is about. Chapter text. Wow, what a day he's had. Not only was he part of two villain attacks, he saw All Might both times. That easily took the cake for the coolest thing that has happened to him, except being born with his quirk. Still though, did the police have to hold him back for so long? He had to wait over 3 hours to finally get clearance to get home, and by then it was already too late to get his mom's package. Guess that we'll have to wait for tomorrow. He just hoped she wasn't too worried about him. In other news, that thing he did with the piece of rebar could probably prove quite useful. Maybe he should take a look into getting a bow staff to be able to guide his light en. Oi, Izuku. Ah, that's what he was forgetting. He turns around, and what do you know? His best friend is there, running straight towards him. Yo Kachan, how's it out? The moment said best friend reached him, he punched him straight over the head. Rude, what was that for? You idiot, why did you run into the middle of a villain attack? Bakugo screamed, though it seemed he was more concerned than angry for once. Izuku looked at him, confused at the reaction. Why wouldn't I? You were in danger and I couldn't just leave my best friend like that, now could I? Izuku explained, though he quickly realized that wasn't quite all. It was almost instinctual what he did, the jump into chaos to save someone in need. Bakugo, somewhat accepting of the answer, still seemed to be mad but let it go for now. Well, you aren't doing that shit again, okay? I'll grow stronger, so next time, I'll be the one saving you, got that? He exclaimed, before turning around and storming towards his house. Izuku looked at him, confused, before muttering a quick, okay, and continuing on his way home. That was weird, kinda heartwarming though. It showed him Bakugo cares, in his own way. Now, without any more detours, time to get I am here. What the was up with this day? There was All Might, in his civilian-clothed glory. Oh no, was he here to scold him for using his quirk in public? Though, that reminded him, where did All Might disappear after the incident? It seemed like he vanished right after he defeated the villain again. Too lost in his thoughts, he doesn't notice All Might cough up blood. However, what he does notice is a puff of steam coming out of the pro before what could only be described as a skeleton with skin appeared in his place. What? What did I just witness? I know you're most likely actually All Might. After all, you're wearing the same clothes as you did both times earlier today and share most of your characteristics with All Might, plus the whole just appearing in this alleyway. But that doesn't explain why you're suddenly straight up a skeleton man. Or, alright, that's enough of that. Oops, sorry sir. All Might coughs into his hand, before quickly starting to explain. As you guessed, I am All Might. However, that's not the whole truth. He lifts his t-shirt to reveal his chest. Or, more like what was left of it. There was giant scarring all over his body, as if someone had punched through his stomach and shoved his organs aside. Izuku grimaced, trying not to think how much that had to have hurt. Pretty gruesome, right? I got this back 5 years ago from a fight. What? Toxic chainsaw didn't land anything that could have hurt you this badly though. You're a real fanboy, I'll give you that, but no. That punk got some good hits on me, but the villain who did this to me was much worse. I decided to never make that fight public. After all, what would happen to the public if the invincible symbol of peace turned out to not be so invincible? There would be chaos, Izuku mutters, terrified at the mere thought of someone who could hurt All Might, let alone this badly. Speaking of the man, he finally let his shirt down, before continuing with his explanation. Since then, the time I could be in my hero form has been gradually shortening, to the point I can only do hero work for only 3 hours a day now. That's why I couldn't initially recapture the sludge villain after his escape. I had run out of time for the day. That explained quite a lot. But, if he had run out of time, how did he save him and Kachan? I can see what you're going to ask. How were you able to save us, if you had run out of time? Well, let's just say, someone inspired me to push past my limit. That's when All Might stood straight, continuing with his speech. There is something that all great heroes share. When asked the question, why did you act? Most of them reply with the same thing: I moved on instinct. Izuku had a feeling he knew where this was going, but he still had to ask. Why are you telling me all of this? His hero only smirked, pointing towards the teen. That's what happened to you, wasn't it? Izuku didn't reply, but his expression gave away the answer that All Might already knew. That's why I came here, to thank you and tell you this. You, Izuku Midoriya, can be an incredible hero. This was too much. Izuku fell down to his knees, tears falling from his eyes. Many people had told him that because of his quirk, he would one day be a great hero, but to hear it from his idol, and not because of his strength, but because of his character. That truly meant everything to him. And in order to help with that dream, I want you to inherit my legacy as symbol of peace and accept my quirk. Okay, never mind, this was all a hallucination. Maybe Kachan hit him too hard. After all, there was no way All Might just said something as insane as inheriting someone's quirk. Still though, he had to ask, just to be sure. Did I hear you right? Accept your quirk, you can give it to someone. All Might rubbed his neck, before regaining his confidence and starting to explain. Since you seem to be a pretty big fan, you probably already know this, but in every interview I do, anytime they ask me about my quirk, I either make a joke or outright dodge the question. That's because my quirk, One for All, is special. Izuku was shocked. He was being serious. That was something he did consistently, yes, but that still didn't explain anything. He wouldn't get to ask his questions though, as All Might continued his explanation. My quirk is able to be passed down from wielder to wielder like a sacred torch, stockpiling power with every person that uses it. I'm the 8th person to ever wield this power and want you, Izuku Midoriya, to be the 9th. This wasn't happening. No way. He'll wake up in his bed just a second and forget this fever dream ever happened. But something deep within him screamed that this was all real. Now, young man, do you accept? Yes. All Might laughs, before extending his hand out to the teen, so he can pick himself up from the ground. Good, no hesitation. Now, let's meet up tomorrow morning at 6 at Dagoba Municipal Beach. We can continue our conversation then. It's getting late, and your parents are probably worried about you. Izuku looks down at his phone, to check the time, just in case. 1947. Almost 4 hours later than the time he promised his mom he'd be home at. He starts running in the direction of his house, his quirk activating on instinct, and calling out to All Might as he does. I'll see you tomorrow, sir. He just hoped his mom wasn't too worried. Hey mom, I'm Ho, Zook you. Dash 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 dash. Could you explain to me why I'm doing this again? Izuku asked the hero who was currently sitting on the fridge he was trying to drag across the shore. When he had arrived at Dagoba earlier, he was expecting a ceremony of some sort, so that All Might could pass on his quirk. Not the pro telling him to start dragging a random fridge, then promptly sitting on top of it. Said pro simply laughed, before deciding to actually respond. While you are more than worthy of taking this quirk, your body still needs some work to be done on it for me to be able to safely pass on One for All to you. He explained. If you were to try and use the quirk now, your arms and legs will most likely fly straight off your body. The mental image of that was utterly terrifying. Great, now he won't be able to sleep tonight. Although, that isn't everything. While heroes nowadays constantly compete for media attention and standing with the public through villain fights, back before the era of quirks, heroes were those who served their communities. As All Might explains this, he gets off of the fridge, before quickly crushing it, clearing an area around it. Cleaning this beach would both help you build up the muscle mass needed for One for All and help the public at the same time. The pro then looks towards Izuku, who still seemed uncertain. Are you sure this will help me get strong enough to be able to use One for All? It doesn't seem to be enough training. All Might simply laughed though, before taking out a folder of papers from his back pocket, on the cover of which was written, All American Dream Plan. This plan here has everything you would need to get fit enough for One for All, from diets to exercise to even extra practice for your natural quirk. Izuku takes the folder from the pro, starting to look through it. It seemed mostly fine, but there were some things he needed to ask about. Sir, I kind of have to take one Saturday every month off, he said, before starting to explain. Me and Bakugo, the other team you saved yesterday, have practice matches once every month in which we go no holds barred for at least 4 hours, so we can practice our quirks against other people. Can we still do these, or should I pick other days? That was one thing, though there was something else he had been thinking about since yesterday. The pro simply shrugged it off. Once a month is just fine, especially considering you'll still be practicing, just in other ways. And another thing, I've been meaning to start learning how to use a bow staff so I can have a weapon that can help me concentrate my lightning blasts and focus my attacks on certain points. That would probably take some more time as well. All Might thought about that for a moment, before replying. I see no issue with that, it would just put off when you would be able to get one for all. By my estimate, if you follow the plan step for step, you would be able to inherit it in 5 months or so, but with the extra lessons, it would most likely take closer to 9. Is that fine with you? Izuku didn't even have to think about that. There were 10 months until the entrance exam, so even just a month to get the hang of one for all should be enough. And if he's able to sneak in more exercise than what's in the plan, even better. I'm all right with that. The pro smirked at him, a challenging sort of expression on his face. That's what I wanted to hear. Now, get back to training, young Midoriya. Sir. Also, what should I call you when you're in your normal form, All Might? Ah, that slipped my mind. My real name is Toshinori Yagi. You can use that name. Thank you for the trust, Mr. Yagi. No problem, now get back to work. You have less than 10 months to clean up this beach. That's it, I give. Katsuki pants out, his arms locked over his head. This made them 14-14 for today. Izuku quickly got up from him, grabbing his bow from off of the ground. Though, most of the time he had tried to use it today, it seemed to be to his own detriment. Izuku twirls the staff around, accidentally smacking himself in the face, causing him to fall back down on the ground. Katsuki cackles at this, finding his friend's stupidity hilarious. Izuku, not pleased with this, knocks him over the head. Yeah, keep laughing. See where it gets you when I finally learn how to use this thing from Kashimo-sensei. Katsuki simply clicks his tongue. As if that would happen anytime soon. Why'd you even decide to bring it with you? Haven't you been practicing with it only for a week or so? He asked, though he guessed it was most likely he just wanted the extra practice against a strong opponent. You work as a great target dummy, Kachan. He's actually asking for death, no other explanation. Nah, I'm messing with you. I just wanted the extra practice, and it's probably for the best you get practice against people with weapons. Fair enough. Although, that wasn't all he noticed. It seemed Izuku had turned it up to 11 this past week. He had noticed him training even during school, and one of the days he followed him after it, he found him lugging around garbage at Dagoba Beach and doing a bunch of physical exercises. If anything, it seemed like he would have to play catch-up soon enough. But that's how losers think. With a smirk on his face, Katsuki Bakugo calls out to his friend to get ready for the next round. If Izuku is pushing himself to 120% to fulfill his dreams, there is nothing in this world that will keep him from doing the same. Ha, it nerd, I win this month. Oh come on, that was hardly fair, you threw a whole metal door at me. Well you should have dodged. A man connected to hospital equipment smiles. He didn't know exactly what was happening outside the room he was being kept in, but he had a feeling things had gotten a lot more interesting. Perhaps he will be able to fulfill his plans this generation. Chapter text. Izuku breathes in deeply, feeling the electricity flowing all throughout his body. He was on his break currently, sitting on the sand of the area he had cleared out. All Might had said it would be a good idea to meditate, so he can get a perfect feel for his quirk, thus making it easier to feel the change when he gives him one for all. It was pleasant. Ever since he was little he had been in touch with his powers, and they felt special. It was as if his quirk wasn't just a part of him, but something else entirely, working in perfect sync with him to help him accomplish his goals. It almost felt like his quirk was sentient. Wasn't that a funny thought? Still, though, it helped him calm himself down and made him feel stronger than ever, even if it only somewhat helped with his quirk. He continued like this for a couple of more minutes, before he heard the alarm he set for the end of his break ring. Well, time to get back to it. Dash 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 dash. Katsuki yelled as he shoved his hands in the boiling water. That hurt, but it helped. If he was to make his explosion stronger, he would need to make himself sweat more, and this definitely made that happen. It just hurt like a bitch as well. Quickly pulling them back out, he aimed up towards the sky and used as big of an explosion as he could make, without injuring his hand, that is. The blast flies up high, far above the surrounding trees, and when it's finished, he puts his hands in the water again. Izuku was improving much faster than before, and he sure as hell wasn't going to let him get stronger than him. Dash 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 dash. Now do it again, but this time with your quirk. I want to see how much stronger you are while using it. All Might said, looking towards his student with interest. In front of Izuku were various pieces of garbage, ranging from a microwave, to a washing machine, to even a scrapped car. They were lined up from lightest to heaviest, and it was his job to go down the row and try to deadlift each of them until it got too heavy, and he couldn't lift the piece of garbage he was on. Without his quirk, he had been able to get to a pretty big oven, which wasn't bad, but if he wanted to be able to use one for all without any issues, he needed to be stronger than that. However, he could work on that in the future. At All Might's signal, he begins the exercise again, this time outputting Lightning God to help increase his physical strength. He quickly gets back to the oven that stopped him before, but this time he's able to lift it without too much of an issue. He continues on like that, until he gets to a 120 kilograms fridge that almost falls on him when he tries to pick it up. However, he's still able to lift it up a bit, quickly letting it go afterward. Honestly, not bad. Alright, that's good enough for now, I got what I wanted to see. All Might says, writing something down in his notebook. Then, he looks back up to his protege, seemingly impressed with his showing. Your quirk seems to increase your strength by about 60%, young Midoriya. The pro says, before continuing his talk. However, it almost feels like it's constantly active, allowing you to do some things you shouldn't be able to yet, like lifting almost 80 kilograms with only a month of proper strength training. The pro then contemplates something, before asking his student. Which reminds me, you haven't fully explained your quirk to me yet. It would help me figure out the best way to help you if you do. Izuku blushes in embarrassment. He's been training with Mr. Yagi for a month now, and has still not explained his quirk. How did that even slip his mind? Oh, yeah, my quirk, Lightning God, makes it so that, unlike other people, I don't have normal blood, but a substance my doctor calls liquid lightning. Its composition is close to regular blood in that it's 45% blood cells and platelets, but instead of plasma I have electricity. As Izuku says this, he cuts up a bit of his finger with his nails, and instead of the regular crimson liquid that Toshinori was expecting, sparks start flying from the cut, which closes shortly after. At the confused look he was getting from his teacher, Izuku continues explaining. I'm not quite sure why, but my quirk also gives me a moderate healing factor. He looks at his finger, it looking as if the cut never happened. My doctor theorized that because my blood can't clot, my body has adapted in another way so that I don't bleed out from a paper cut. It's actually been incredibly useful recently, with all the cuts and bruises he's been getting from his training. However, my healing is limited to how much electricity I have in my body. Theoretically, I would be able to even regrow my limbs, I would just need a car battery attached to me. All Might nodded in understanding. That would explain his stronger body and faster reflexes, even without actively using Lightning God. Though, he was worried about what would happen to the quirk once Izuku got one for all. He had heard from his master that it greatly boosted one's original quirk, but he didn't know exactly how. Since he didn't have one himself, he couldn't try to prepare his student for it. Now, that was enough of a break. Let's get back to work, young Midoriya, this beach isn't gonna clean itself. He can think about the ramifications of someone with such a powerful quirk getting one for all later. Now, he's just a teacher that needs to be there for his student. Dash 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 dash. Is that really all you can do? The old man asked, putting his staff on his back and bowing to the fallen teenager. Izuku grunts from the ground, still clutching his own staff in his hands. He gets up though, getting into a fighting stance. The old man, however, simply shook his head. No, it is getting late. We can continue our practice next week. Izuku, not ready to stop just yet, tried to convince his teacher. Sensei, please, let's continue with the training. I'm not good enough yet, and if I were happy with just 2 hours of practice with you a week, I wouldn't be able to grow strong. Ah, there was something he could understand. The old man himself had gone through this when he was younger, that desire to prove to others you were strong. That desire to show the world you were just as good, if not better, than the rest. That determination to never back down, even in the face of defeat. Yes, the old man understood that feeling very well. Fine, he said, turning towards his pupil. I will give you 4 minutes. If you land even a single hit on me, without using your quirk, we will continue our training for an extra 2 hours, and I'll make all of our future meetings longer, free of charge. The old man then smirked, his expression creeping out the team, used to his usual stone-cold face. However, if you fail, I will not extend our training, and you are cleaning the gym spotless every week. The old man twirled around his staff, before hitting it on the ground. Do you accept, Midoriya? A single hit, that didn't seem too bad. Yeah, he could do that. No, he has to do that. He has to get stronger, so he can save as many people as possible. I accept. I will land a hit on you, Kashimo-sensei. The old man, still wearing his smirk, got into a fighting stance, pointing his staff downwards. Izuku did the same, pointing his staff towards his teacher. And begin. With that signal, Izuku threw himself towards his teacher, trying to hit him from above. Kashimo, however, simply sidestepped him, using his staff to hit Izuku in the knees, changing his trajectory in the air. Izuku doesn't let that slow him down though, landing on the floor in a roll, before sliding down on the ground, trying to trip his teacher. Kashimo jumped, dodging his student's slide kick, to which Izuku thrust his staff at an upwards diagonal, trying to hit Kashimo's chest. He, however, simply blocked with his own staff, before landing and quickly moving away from Izuku. The team got up. Okay, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. He needed to figure out something. But he still needs to attack as well, so no time to think. He got closer to his teacher, the two circling around one another. However, this brief moment of peace was broken when Izuku tried to strike Kashimo with a horizontal attack that his teacher blocked, which he tried to follow up with an uppercut with his staff, which the old man simply sidestepped. Izuku, however, refused to back down, slamming his staff down, which the old man once again dodged, but that wasn't what he was going for anyway. He used his staff to spring himself forward, trying to kick Kashimo, but he once again blocked his strike with his staff, pushing him back when he did. That was fine. He still had some time, and he could figure something out. It was fine, he still had time. He will win, no matter what. He once again used his staff as a booster, shooting himself into the air, trying to land an axe kick on the old man's head. Said man simply blocked with his staff, before trying to throw Izuku off again. The teen, however, grabbed his opponent's staff, pulling himself towards him and trying to knee him in the face. Kashimo, shocked at his student's ingenuity, was forced to let go of his staff and dodge backwards, going to the other side of the room. Izuku smirked at him. Good, it should be much easier now that his teacher is without a weapon. Now all he has to do is land the hit. Kashimo looked at the watch on his wrist for just a second, before turning his attention back towards his opponent. 1 minute left, he said, noticing his student's eyes widening. Good, let's see if he can handle the pressure. The teen breathed in, before deciding he needed to execute the plan he had thought up. He got closer to his teacher once again, pointing the staff in his right hand towards him, while laying the other one on the ground. While that confused the old man, he refused to be caught off guard, keeping his eyes on his student. However, what he wasn't expecting was for Izuku to kick his leg forward, shooting the dropped staff towards Kashimo's face, while also trying to kick him in the gut. Hajime was able to catch his staff and use it to block the kick, but that left him open for an overhead staff hit. He dodged backwards, but Izuku let his momentum carry him forward, not letting his teacher catch his breath, trying to do an overhead on him, that the old man was able to block. Izuku landed on his legs, thrusting his staff forward, but his teacher blocked it again, before making space between them. Shit, his plan didn't work, and now he had only 20 seconds to hit him. But that didn't matter, he had to do this. Kashimo looked towards his student. He seemed tired and almost ready to give up. Disappointing, he showed so much promise. Well, it was no matter, he just had tea, huh? He knocked the thrown bow staff aside, but he didn't even have time to think about that as the student threw himself into his teacher, throwing a forward punch to Kashimo's head. The old man leaned his head to the side, not expecting his student to grab him by the back of the head, jump into the air, and knee him right in the face. Yes, Izuku screamed, falling on the ground without even breaking his fall. Hajime looked down at him, laughing on the ground, at how giddy he was at being able to land a single hit, and smiled himself. Yes, the boy showed promise, that much was certain. Good, he liked the strong ones. Get up Midoriya, we have training to do, don't we? The teen looked up at his teacher, before nodding and getting up, grabbing his staff and getting into his pose. He was so glad he was able to do this. You were very creative during our fight Midoriya. You remind me quite a lot of someone I used to know back when I was a pro. Oh, really? Who is it? It's not that important. Now from the top again, this time, with more force. Dash 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 dash. Toshinori looked at the cleaned-up beach, smiling in pride at his protege, meditating in the middle of it. He had just arrived, expecting there to still be work to be done, but no, the boy had surprised him yet again, cleaning up the entire beach, a whole month before the entrance exam. Lightning was sparkling around the teen, almost forming a sphere around himself. However, hearing someone else step on the beach, he opened his eyes, and at seeing All Might, he shot up in excitement. Mr. Yagi, look, I finished cleaning. He yelled out, running over towards the pro. All Might simply chuckled at his thrill, patting him on the head. It was nice, watching this kid, his successor, earning something that very few would have the determination to do. You sure did, young Midoriya. As he said this, he buffed up. He didn't really have to do it, but it felt right, the #1 hero handing down the legacy of one for all to the one worthy of it. Now it is time for me to give you your reward. The teen looked up towards him, determination on his face, but it quickly formed into doubt. Are you sure about this, All Might? This feels as if I had been blessed by the gods. It's simply too unreal. The pro shook his head though. My master told me this, so you listen up as well. There is a difference between getting lucky and earning something, and you young Izuku, have definitely earned this. As he was saying this, All Might pulled out a strand of hair from one of his hair tufts, before handing it out towards Izuku. Now, eat this. What? You have to ingest some of my DNA to get one for all, and this is the least gross way. Now eat. I'm suddenly very uncertain. Aboghhh. Izuku chalked down on the hair that the hero shoved down his mouth, before swallowing it down. That was filthy. God, how much hair gel do you use? He slapped his cheeks, concentrating back on what he was feeling. It was disappointing to say the least. He didn't feel any different. Mr. Yagi, did something go wrong? I don't feel anything. The pro eased his worries though. Don't worry about it, your body needs to digest the hair before you feel any difference. He thought about it for a moment, before saying, let's meet up again tomorrow. You should be able to use one for all by then, so we can test it out. Izuku nodded and the two bid each other farewell. Tomorrow, he would finally see what he could truly do. A few hours later, Izuku felt as if a whole ocean's worth of power flooded into him and heard 7 people whisper, the time has come, to him. In his shock, his quirk goes haywire, frying the circuitry in his apartment building. Okay, that was odd. And, boy, he felt tired. However, before he could lay down on his bed, he heard his mom calling him to explain why the electrical equipment in the entire building was fried. Oh well, no rest for the wicked, he guesses. When Izuku arrived at Dagoba the next day, he saw that All Might was already waiting for him with another person. As he got closer, he noticed that the other person was oddly familiar. Wait a minute, was that Recovery Girl? Can I have your autograph? The pros turned towards the teen at his call, and the woman chuckled. I see what you mean about him being a fanboy now, Toshinori. All Might chuckles at that as well, before turning towards his student. Good morning, young Midoriya. I assume one for all has manifested. At the question, Izuku blushes a bright red, hiding his face in his hands and muttering something about fried circuitry and his mom being angry, before looking towards the two heroes and nodding. Wonderful. Recovery Girl is here just in case something goes wrong when you try to use the quirk. Now, are you ready? Yes sir. That's what I want to hear. Toshinori goes next to Izuku, patting him on the shoulder. Close your eyes and focus on your quirk. Try to find the difference and pull on it. See how it feels, then try to use it. We're here to help if anything goes wrong, and I have brought a car battery just in case you need more electricity. Thank you sir. And with a breath, Izuku closed his eyes, the familiar feeling of his quirk washing over him. However, there's something new there, feeling like a giant pool of new energy, ready to burst out of him at any moment. I can feel it there, sir. I'll try using it now. After getting an affirmative from the pros, he pulled on the pool of strength, channeling it in his arms before, with a call of, smash. He punched forward. The force was incredible, creating a huge whirlwind all around him and almost splitting the sea in the direction he had punched in. That was so, painful. He looked down at his and noticed it was an almost purple color, covered entirely in bruises. There were gashes all over it, and he was pretty sure it was broken in at least one place. Young Midoriya, are you all right? The now buffed up All Might said, holding the boy who had almost fallen over. The teen shook his head. This felt awful. Thankfully, his quirk's healing factor had seemingly kicked in, and the gashes were already starting to heal. Didn't do anything about the broken arm though. However, before he could worry too much, he felt a pair of lips pressed to his temple and his arm quickly healed entirely. Oh yeah, Recovery Girl. Toshinori, you idiot, why didn't you warn him this could happen? The short woman called out, hitting the giant pro with her cane. All Might apologized again and again, explaining he didn't expect that to happen. Well, fine, but don't think I'll forget this. She then turned towards the teenager who looked mostly fine, just seemingly tired. Now are you all right, dearie? Not too tired, I hope. Yes, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm mostly shocked that the kickback was this bad. I tried to regulate how much strength I used, but it felt impossible. The power is simply so much more than Lightning God, Izuku explained, looking down at his arm. However, he still had a question. All Might, what would happen if I used Lightning God and One for All at the same time? The pro, however, couldn't answer. I don't know, young Midoriya. I myself was quirkless before I got One for All, so I haven't had any experience with that. If I were to guess, it would make it stronger, but I'm not sure how much more. Izuku nodded. That explained why he hadn't seen All Might ever use any other powers. I'll test it out, see what happens. What, are you certain that's a smart idea, young man? If only One for All did that to your arm, what could happen to you if you use your quirk as well? Recovery Girl brought up her very valid concerns, but Izuku simply brushed them off. Lightning and electricity have never hurt me, and I don't think all of a sudden they will. After thinking about it for a moment, he added on. At most, I'll pass out because of discharged myself, but that's about it. And with that, he once again channeled One for All through his arm, this time using Lightning God at the same time. If his eyes were opened, he would have seen a mass of bright blue sparks burst out of his arm, with such strength they felt as if they could burn straight through someone. Izuku breathed in, and with a thrust of his arm, a miniature ball of pure electricity shot out of his hand, until it hit the water, causing it to explode. The blast was massive, almost as big as when he had used One for All on its own, and he sat down on the beach, almost passing out from exhaustion. All right, he should probably figure out how to use One for All's energy for Lightning God if he's going to combine them in the future. One blast almost knocking him out was not a good thing. Tosh. Battery. Call. Now, was that Recovery Girl? She was cool. She saved a lot of people, healing them when they can't heal themselves. Yeah, that's really cool. Was that All Might as well? He was cool as well. And so strong. He did his very best all the time and bees. Gulp. Thanks for that, Mr. Yagi. Thank goodness his teacher thought it would be a good idea to bring a battery. This was awful. All of this training and he couldn't handle the quirk. Was all the time All Might put into him for nothing? Would he want One for All back, or? No, young Izuku, I don't want the quirk back, and our time together wasn't for nothing. The pro said, before sticking out his hand for the teen to take and get up. You are still learning and mistakes are expected. Don't worry about it though. You will get better, and I will be with you every step of the way. Thank you, Mr. Yagi. It was nice, knowing he wasn't disappointed. But still, they had a lot of work to do. Chapter text. Looking up at the towering building in front of him, Izuku couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Sure, he had been practicing pretty much his entire life for this, and the last 10 months had honed both his skills and his body to a much higher degree than before, but there was always something that could go wrong. No matter, he would go in, use his strength and the power passed down from All Might and absolutely ace this exam, if he could control the quirk, that is. A whole month, with absolutely no progress made whatsoever. Turns out, trying to control so much energy it can cause sudden weather changes was not an easy feat. He just didn't expect to have absolutely no control over it. Stop brooding in front of the school and get moving, Izuku. He heard from behind him. Turning around, he saw Kachan there, walking towards him. When he reached him, he flicked him on the forehead, a miniature explosion coming from his finger. Izuku, in turn, shot a spark through his friend's hand, shocking him. Katsuki, however, didn't retaliate further, instead trying to comfort the greenette. I know you're probably overthinking something stupid, but you really shouldn't. As Katsuki started walking away, towards their future, he finished what he started saying. I'd say, good luck, but take this from the person who knows your strength the best. You don't need it. And so he went, not sparing a glance back, certain his best friend would get his shit together and come absolutely crush this exam with him. Izuku looked at Katsuki's retreating form, deep in thought. He was right, he was overthinking this. Even if he couldn't control One for All yet, that didn't mean he wouldn't be able to learn how to use it at UA. Plus, Lightning God should be more than enough for whatever the test was. So, bidding goodbye to his past self, he took the first step towards his goal. And promptly tripped and started falling. Thank the gods that Kachan isn't here to see this, Izuku thought, reaching towards his back to grab his staff and use it to balance himself. However, before he could do that, he felt something wrap around his arms, pulling him back on his feet. He looked down at where he felt the pressure and noticed some vines wrapped around him. Before he could figure out where they came from, he heard a melodic voice from behind him. "Are you quite all right?" Izuku turned around and saw who had spoken. It was a girl around his height with dark green eyes. She was wearing a long overcoat, but he could see a school uniform under it. So she must be one of the hero hopefuls as well. However, what was easily the most striking part about her was her hair. It looked to have been made from the same vines that had saved him from falling. Oh, that must have been her quirk. Wait, he had been looking at her for too long. Quick, play it cool. Oh, why yeah, I'm alright. Nailed it. The girl didn't seem to notice his nervousness though, as she started speaking again. That is wonderful to hear. Please do forgive me for using my blessing on you. However, it would have been quite unfortunate for you to fall before even taking part in the exam, she said, slightly bowing to the boy. Izuku stammered, surprised this random cute girl was being so nice to him. Wait, cute? No, it's fine. Actually, I should be thanking you for catching me. It really would have been bad to trip and fall here. There, that's better. Speak like a normal person, Izuku, no need to make things awkward with someone you don't know. The girl, seemingly content with the answer, smiled at him, causing his cheeks to redden a bit. No, bad, stop. Well, in that case, I shall be off. I wish you the best of luck in this upcoming trial. And with that, the cute girl was off, walking towards the entrance of Ua. Well, that could have definitely gone better. Still though, she seemed nice, and if his theory about her quirk was true, she seemed to be at least somewhat strong. He hoped she'd be in his class when he got in. That would be nice, although he should really have asked for her name. Thinking about her as just the cute girl was kinda weird. Wait, no time to think about that, I'm gonna be late. And with that, Izuku ran towards the school, really hoping he wouldn't be too late. Dash 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 dash. So, robots, huh? That wasn't exactly what he was expecting, but it worked in his favor. If he shoots enough electricity into them, they should short circuit, so he should be fine. Looking around, he watched some of the other examines in his zone getting warmed up while he went through some of his bow staff forms. After all, he could potentially be classmates with these people in the future. There was a blonde kid with an oversized belt looking at something, a mantis-looking boy that was swinging his elbow blades wildly, an orange-haired girl who seemed to be doing some martial arts katas, and the tall blue-haired kid that had asked about the zero-pointer all seemed to look ready for the test, but the rest of the students, not so much. However, looking near the entrance of the practice zone, he saw the green-haired girl from earlier, in the middle of what looked like a prayer. However, that wasn't all. Her vines were moving around the ground, playing around with some of the rocks on it. On closer inspection, she seemed to be using them like stress balls, before crushing them into a fine powder. Alrighty then, she would probably be fine against the robots if just a single vine was able to apply this much pressure. Still though, it would be nice to get to know her name, and wish her luck like she did for High, and start. Not wasting no time, Izuku activates Lightning God, shooting forwards through the gates. He hears Present Mike yelling something about there being no countdowns in real life, which causes the other examines to enter the zone as well. He spots a 2-point robot and jumps towards it, stabbing his staff in it and coursing electricity through it, frying the robot from the inside. Quickly getting off of the robot, he noticed the blue-haired boy running past him, much faster than Izuku was expecting, before kicking a one-pointer's head clean off. For someone without some obvious mutation, he sure hit fast. However, now wasn't the time to look at other people, now was the time to crush this exam. He ran into the main street, which was filled with tons of robots. So, he got to work. He ran into a three-pointer, shooting out a blast of lightning into its middle, blowing a hole right through the robot. Next, he ran into a one-pointer and used his staff to shoot himself into the air and axe kicking it in the neck, being the second student to decapitate a robot with a kick. He looked out in front of himself, and noticing two one-pointers, three two-pointers and a three-pointer heading towards him, he started charging 100% of his lighting god output, his sparks glowing a light purple color. He pointed his staff towards the robots, and charged as much of the build-up charge into it as he could, before unleashing a massive attack. Prototype maximum technique. Zeus chain bolt. And with this call, a massive bolt of lighting shot out of his staff, hitting the robot in the front, before splitting into smaller bolts to hit the rest of them. Most of the robots started malfunctioning before turning off, but the three-pointer still tried to reach him, crawling after its shell was almost completely destroyed. Seems like its weapons had stopped working after the blast. He walked over to it, before touching and zapping it with enough electricity to finally shut it off. "Ugh, stupid hunk of junk," Izuku heard from near himself. He looked around and saw a purple-haired boy trying to fight off a two-pointer with a piece of some other robot. However, he didn't seem to be doing well, so Izuku ran over to him, before shooting forward, grabbing the two-pointer by one of its tails and using his momentum, threw it into a nearby wall. "You all right?" he asked the other participant, who simply nodded, before walking over to the fallen two-pointer and stabbing it with the metal plating he was holding. Izuku simply shrugged at the lack of reaction, before continuing on with the exam. "I have 17 points so far, let's go get some more." Dash 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 dash. Up in an observation room, the teachers of UA were watching the students, interested in what this year would build up to. At the front, a chimera creature began speaking. "Quite an interesting batch we have this year," he said, before continuing speaking. "And it seems like there are some real gems among the participants." The teacher nodded, before a man in a cowboy getup began speaking. "There are those who thrive in combat." As he said this, he looked at two distinct screens, one showing Katsuki in the middle of a robot scrapyard, helping a pink-skinned girl get up, the other showing the blue-haired kid ramming a one-pointer, before running over to a three-pointer and kicking right through it. Another teacher, this one a blonde woman in a black compression top, beige cargo pants and light yellow elbow-long gloves with hardened knuckles, started speaking. Others are using their senses to find those in need. A screen showed a tall mutant boy with eyeballs and ears on his hands, trying to find anything noteworthy. Or just use their speed to cover as much ground as possible, she added on, looking towards the screen where Izuku was running down the main street of his zone, destroying any robots in his way and helping other participants. She patted a white serpentine being floating around her. "I like these kids. Yo, Eraser, has anyone caught your eye?" she asked a shaggy man who was sitting near the end of the room. Said man simply grumbled, not responding to the question. Unsatisfied with his lack of answer, she pouted. "You're so boring. You'll be teaching 40 of these kids how to properly use their quirks, and you have nothing to say about them." The man simply sighed, before replying. "While some of them seem particularly talented, I need to work with them first before I decide my opinion of them," he said, before looking back towards the screens. The woman, happy with the answer, turned to her fellow first-year homeroom teacher. "What about you, Vlad? Anyone interesting?" The newly addressed person, a bulky man in a red jumpsuit, nodded before pointing towards a screen with an orange-haired girl on it. "This one, Itsuka Kendo, seems to have a decent head on her shoulders, and she seems to be quite capable with her quirk." He then pointed towards two other screens, one with a blonde boy with slicked hair using some ice powers, before touching a robot and causing it to float. On the other screen, a black-haired boy used a katana to cut off a one-pointer's head, before touching a piece of ruble on another student, shrinking it down until it was as small as a pebble. "And it seems that we have not won," but 2 kids with a copy quirk and both seem like they'll pass. Now, that's enough of the warm-up. Let's see how they handle the main event. The Chimera said, before pressing a big red button. All the teachers returned their entire focus on the screens, interested in how the students would handle this obstacle. The skeletal form of All Might looked towards the screen which showed his successor, smiling lightly. Now, young Midoriya, show them what a true hero looks like. Dash 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 dash. Gotta thank Kashimo-sensei for inspiring me to use my staff for more than just striking. Izuku thought. He had used his staff to help himself climb up a building, sticking it into the wall, using it to shoot himself upwards and pulling it out, then sticking it back in at the apex of his jump, to try and get an eagle's eye view of the area, so he could help anyone that needed. He had gotten around 70 points, so he felt he didn't need more, thus using the rest of the leftover time from the exam to try and help others. There should be about a minute and a half left. I should probably start heading down. As he was thinking this, a sharp pain went through his head. What was that? He asked, when it passed, but then the ground started trembling. He looked around and noticed a giant robot less than 100 meters from him. That's the 0-pointer, he exclaimed. That was certainly overkill. Well, no matter, he didn't have to worry about it. It seemed fairly slow, so all he had to do was just run off. Ow. That's when he heard someone yell out in pain. He looked down at the street and noticed the vine-haired girl, a lot of rubble crushing her lower half. She seemed to be trying to use her vines to remove as much of it as possible, but in her panic, the process was so slow, that by the time she got it all off of her, the 0-pointer would be on top of her. No way was he allowing that to happen. Running as fast as he could towards the robot, channeling Lightning God through himself, unknowingly using a tiny bit of One for All to further boost his speed. He crossed the 100-meter distance between himself and the robot's hand in less than 6 seconds, before starting to climb up it so that he could reach its head. He jumped up and up, using his staff as leverage whenever he could, before he finally reached the top of its head. All right, Rust Bucket, turn off for me, would you? As he said this, he slammed his hand down on the robot, channeling as much electricity through it as possible. The bot, however, didn't slow down, continuing its trek forward. Damn it, I won't let you hurt that girl, or anyone else. In his outrage, Izuku accidentally pulled on his quirk too much, to the point he also started using a small part of One for All as well. A sphere of electricity started forming around him, quickly expanding until it reached a 10-meter radius around himself, covering the entirety of the robot's head. The outer walls of the sphere started shooting out lightning at the robot, and yet it still wasn't enough. Fine, Izuku thought, if this is how it has to be, then so be it. Lightning God and One for All. All of a sudden, the electric sphere increased in power 20-fold, lightning shooting wildly in it, so much so that the robot's head almost immediately vaporized, causing Izuku to fall off. Too exhausted from overusing his quirks, he almost passed out in the air, but he was still barely conscious. Ah, I'm about to die, aren't I? That's awful. I never truly got to complete my dream. Oh well, at least I saved the pretty girl. And that's when he finally closed his eyes, for what he thought would be the final time. In his lack of awareness, he didn't feel a bunch of vines catching him, gently bringing him down to the ground, near where the girl he saved was. ... He has already partially awakened one of our quirks. That was much sooner than I expected. Dash 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 dash. The first thing Izuku felt when he woke up was a massive shock coursing through him. He shot up, inhaling deeply. Looking around, he noticed a battery strapped to himself. Interesting how this was the second time this has happened to him. The next thing he noticed was Recovery Girl standing in front of him, and she seemed displeased to say the least. What did I tell you? when you couldn't get one for all under control?" she asked, her voice gentle but her entire being giving off a whole other vibe. "To, not use it and just rely on lightning god until I could control it," he muttered. Recovery girl nodded, before hitting him on the shin with her cane. "Then why did I watch you almost kill yourself with it 20 minutes ago?" Izuku ducked his head, ashamed at having broken his promise to the heroine. However, in the next moment he looked back at her, determination burning in his eyes. "I couldn't just let the robot hurt that girl. What kind of hero would I be if I let that happen?" he asked, hoping that the pro would understand his point. Recovery girl simply sighed, her whole demeanor turning gentler. "I can truly see why Toshinori chose you now. You both have the same reckless abandon for yourself if it comes to saving someone," she said, before continuing. "Just be more careful next time, alright? Even if you want to save everyone, you can't do that if you kill yourself beforehand." Izuku nodded. That he could do. It took a couple more minutes of Recovery Girl checking up on him before she deemed him well enough to go home, and so Izuku went, ready to finally end this hectic day. Dash 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 dash. A couple of weeks had passed since the exam and Izuku felt as if he would implode. During the time after the exam, All Might hadn't answered a single one of his texts. Now, normally, that wouldn't bother Izuku that much. Mr. Yagi was a fairly busy man, but there hadn't been a single mention of All Might in the news the whole time, so he couldn't be doing hero work. So that left him with one option. Mr. Yagi simply didn't want to talk to him. Was he disappointed in him? Did he not pass the exam? He thought he did fairly well, but they could have disqualified for the fact he almost killed himself. Oh no, would he want one for all back to try and give it to someone worthier than him? And when he does take it back, would he, Izuku? The letter from Ua is here. Well, no time to think about what ifs, time to see if he got in. Taking the letter from his mother with a quick, "Thank you," he ran over to his room, shutting himself in there. He looked down at the thing that would decide his future, lightning leaking out of him from nervousness. Again, his doubts ate at him. What if he didn't pass because of his stunt? That would hurt. And if he didn't pass, then ding-oh, someone was texting him. He looked down at his phone, and noticed a text from Katsuki reading, "You opened your letter yet?" Shooting him a quick, "No," he tore open the letter quickly. A small disc-like device fell from it, with a button on it. He pressed down on the button, before looking away. However, he realized what he was doing was stupid. Even if he didn't pass, he tried his best. Worst case scenario, he'll become a vigil. I am here. As a projection. Whoa, All Might. Wait, why is he in my letter from Ua? Now you're probably wondering, why am I the one telling you your results? The hologram asked, hitting the nail on the head. Then, he puffed out his chest, before explaining. Well, that's because you are looking at the newest faculty member of Ua High, he said, pride in his voice. Izuku nodded. That actually explained why he wasn't answering him. He was actually too busy to talk. That was certainly a weight off his shoulders. Now, let's get to what you are watching this for, test results. Here it is, the moment of truth. On the written exam, you did admirably, ranking 5th out of all participants. That's more than enough to qualify you for the general education course. All Might said. Izuku felt proud of himself. 5th was actually quite good, especially since he didn't study nearly as much as he could have in the past 10 months. However, that's not what you're here to hear, are you? You want to know how you did in the hero course exam. There it was, the final piece of the puzzle. If he passed, he would be well on his way to becoming a hero. If he didn't, the vigilante life it is. And just like in the written exam, you did incredible in the practical as well. All Might said, and Izuku felt as if he could deflate in relief. Thank goodness, he did well. You got 73 villain points, which with that alone would put you in 2nd place in the exam, more than enough to pass. However, that's not all. Wait, What? The spirit of a hero is the spirit of saving others, and young Midoriya, you did that in dozens. There was a slideshow of clips of him saving others, from the purple-haired kid at the start, to helping others from the rooftops, to finally, destroying the zero-pointer to save the cute girl. I said stop that brain. How could we not reward someone who showed the true qualities of a hero? That's why we've decided to reward you with an additional 60 rescue points. This shoots you up directly to first place. All Might then pointed towards the camera, pride in his voice. Congratulations Izuku Midoriya, this is your Hero Academia. Then, he leaned down and whispered, meet me at Dagoba in an hour after you get this letter, I want to talk to you. And with that final message, the hologram turned off, leaving a list of the top 5 exam takers. 1. Izuku Midoriya, 73 villain points, 60 rescue points. 2. Katsuki Bakugo 81 villain points, 31 rescue points. 3. Yuta Okatsu 59 villain points, 47 rescue points. 4. Abara Shiozaki 42 villain points, 45 rescue points. 5. Eijiro Kirishima 39 villain points, 35 rescue points. Izuku stood there, shell-shocked. Not only had he passed, he was first. As his excitement quickly grew, his electricity started leaking out of him. I got in, he yelled out, and at that moment, his mother went into his room, crashing into him with a hug. My baby boy was accepted into UA. I'm so proud of you, Izuku, she said, hugging him as hard as she could. We're having a special dinner tomorrow, we need to celebrate this occasion. You could even invite Mr. Yagi over. After all, he helped you train, she said. Izuku nodded, still incredibly excited, when he remembered what his mentor said at the end of the message. Mom, I'll be going out to go meet with him, tell him the good news and that he's invited tomorrow, he said. Inko nodded, telling him to just not get home too late, and so Izuku went to meet his mentor. Sparky, beat your score, obviously, that shows I'm better than you. Blasty, oh shut up, rescue points carried your dumbass. And so, I had to use one for all with Lightning God, but I still couldn't control it and passed out. Izuku explained. He had been explaining the end of the exam to the pro, from the moment the zero-pointer appeared, to the moment he destroyed it. All Might, in his skinny form, nodded. What I'm more interested in is the sudden head pain you got just before the robot appeared. It can't have been just a coincidence. It sounds like a quirk I had heard of in the past, though I can't quite remember from where. The pro said. Then, however, he shook his head. That wasn't important for now. It's sad to see that you still can't control one for all, but we can work on that throughout the year. Then he buffed up, giving a hand to his student. Let's go get some ice cream for now, my TR, oh my god, is that All Might? But first, let's skedaddle out of here young Midoriya. All Might said, turning and running towards the other side of the beach. Izuku activated Lightning God, running after his hero. He still needed to get one for all under his control, but for now, this was enough. Also, my mom is inviting you to dinner tomorrow, Mr. Yagi. Oh, in that case, I'll be more than happy to accept. Chapter text. The day has finally come. His first day of UA was finally here and Izuku was quite literally vibrating with excitement. He knew Kachan was in the same class as him, since they had talked the day after the acceptance letters came around, but there were 18 other people who'd be his classmates for the next 3 years. He couldn't wait to see what their quirks were. Now that he thought about it, he hoped the pretty girl was in his class. Her quirk seemed so interesting. And really strong as well. He had so many questions about it. Like, could it grow from other places on her body, not just her head? Could she control how hard the vines turned? They seemed to have spikes on them, so could she make them sharper? He really hoped he could ask her. Too lost in thought, he didn't realize he had made it to his classroom until he was right in front of the door. Wow, this thing is big, he muttered out, It actually made a lot of sense. Since there were so many students with so many different quirks, there was bound to be someone really tall. And with excitement thrumming through his veins, Izuku opened the door to his future. Only to be greeted with his best friend arguing with the fast tall boy he saw during the exam. Great. Take your feet off the desk this instant. You are disrespecting this establishment and the heroes that came before you. The tall boy said, making some chopping motions at Katsuki. The explosive teen simply rolled his eyes, but did as told, putting his feet on the ground. Fine, if that will get that stick out of your ass. As he said this, Izuku could see the blue-haired boy's face turn mortified in real time, getting ready to, most likely, lecture Katsuki about his language. Yeah, okay, time for him to step in before his idiot friend went too far. Kachan, can you please, for the love of the gods, not antagonize our classmates on the first day? Izuku said, walking over to him and knocking him over the head. Katsuki tried to swipe back at him, but Izuku simply sidestepped, turning his attention to the other teen, who was simply watching their exchange. Please forgive my friend for his disrespectful nature. I clearly haven't beaten enough sense into him during our spars. Hey, my name is Izuku Midoriya, it's a pleasure to meet you. He said, bowing to the other teen. He, in turn, bowed to him, smiling slightly. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Midoriya. My name is Tenya Iida, from Sume Junior High. I hope you can rein in your friend. The now identified Iida said, looking over Izuku's shoulder at Katsuki. The explosive teen simply huffed, looking off to the side. Izuku looked around. The classroom was mostly empty, save for a boy with black hair sitting at the back of the class, and another boy, this one with half red, half white hair, sitting to his right. But that was to be expected. There were still around 20 minutes before class began. Deciding not to introduce himself to his classmates just yet, Izuku sat down in the seat behind Bakugo and started to write down some notes on possible ways to control One for All. This continued for about 10 minutes, some new students entering the classroom and taking their seats. Izuku didn't pay much attention to them, sparing them a passing glance as they entered. Until he saw someone who he had been wondering about finally enter the room. It was the girl with the vine hair, and she looks really good in that uniform. Wait, why am I thinking this? He quickly shook his head, dispelling the blush that had started to overtake his face, and looked back towards the girl. And she was looking directly at him, with a look of recognition on her face. Oh no, did she remember him as that doofus that almost fell in his face before the exam? That would really. However, before he could get too lost in his thoughts, she came over to him, and bowed. I am truly thankful for what you did during the entrance exam. As she said this, she straightened her back until she was standing again, on her face a grateful smile that made Izuku's face heat up again. If it wasn't for you, I don't want to think what the zero-pointer would have done to me. Izuku started trying to explain that it was just what a hero would do, but she continued talking before he could. I was truly blessed you were there to destroy it. There was about a second of calm, before the whole class erupted. You destroyed a zero-pointer. That's so manly. Dude, what is your quirk? How did you even reach that thing? Oh, so that was you. The last one came Iida, who was looking at him with a newfound respect. Izuku tried to answer the questions and praises his classmates were throwing at him, but his nervousness decided to rear its ugly head around and cause him to start stammering like crazy. Damn it, he got praised all the time back in middle school. Why was this so different now? Maybe because the praise here actually matters, and is not by a bunch of people who just want to ride his carrier if he ever went pro. However, before he could get bombarded with even more questions, the door opened once again. It revealed a tall woman with blonde hair. She was wearing a black compression top and beige cargo pants with a utility belt. Up to her elbows, she had light yellow gloves. However, the most striking part about her was the white serpentine creature floating around her. Now, quiet down class, said Yuki Tsukumo, the number 3 pro hero, Star Rage. Izuku felt like his heart was gonna burst. He knew that all the teachers at UA were pros, but to think that the number 3 hero would be one of them. That was so cool. And looking at his classmates' reaction, they shared the sentiment. The woman walked over to the teacher's desk, before starting to speak again. My name is Yuki Tsukumo. Most of you probably know me as the pro hero Star Rage, but for the next 3 years, I'll be your homeroom teacher. Yeah, okay, he was gonna pass out. The number 3 hero was going to be his homeroom teacher. This felt like an absolute dream. Now, follow me to the gymnasium, orientation will start in 15 minutes. The woman said, before exiting the room, the students following behind her. Izuku was walking next to Katsuki, chatting with his friend, when he felt someone tap him on the shoulder. He looked behind him and noticed the pretty girl was the one who had gotten his attention. We never did get introduced, did we? She said, before bowing once again. My name is Abara Shiozaki. It's a blessing to meet you. Even though he was slightly confused at the way she phrased it, he smiled back at her, before bowing slightly as well. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Shiozaki. I'm Izuku Midoriya. He then pointed towards the other boy next to him, who had been walking awkwardly after them while they were talking. This doofus here is my best friend Katsuki Bakugo. Don't let his appearance fool you though, he's as harmless as a puppy. Katsuki, clearly angered at the comment, looked at his friend, ready to open his mouth and retort, but was cut off by their teacher telling them they had arrived. So he shut up for now. It was no matter, he'd rip Izuku a new one after school. They got seated, Katsuki at the rightmost seat, Izuku to his left and Abara to his left. And not long after, the orientation began. Principal Nezu gave a quick speech, before starting to explain where each class would be held. Then, he started to say which teachers would be teaching which subject. Izuku recognized most of them, though he had no idea who their quirk theory teacher, Shota Aizawa, was. He looked like a homeless man in all honesty. Lastly, came the basic heroics teacher who was, a mystery surprise. Though, if he had to guess, it was most likely All Might. After all, he wasn't their teacher for any other subject. Though he probably shouldn't bring that up, he didn't know how many of his classmates knew that he was teaching at UA. And with that, orientation was over, and he could hear Katsuki grumbling something about it being a waste of time. However, he was too busy talking with Abara to really pay attention to him. So after you destroyed the 0-pointer, I caught you with my vines. I was worried that I hadn't softened the fall enough, but when I laid you down on the ground, you were mostly fine, just passed out. The girl said. Izuku nodded. So that's why he wasn't a pancake currently. After that, Recovery Girl came around with 2 drones carrying a stretcher to take you to the infirmary. I was quite worried about you, but she assured me you would be fine, so I trusted her. I need to thank you as well in that case. If you hadn't caught me, I don't want to think about what would have happened to me. Izuku said. They continued chatting for a little while, Katsuki also included in the conversation, until they finally reached the classroom again. Quickly taking their seats, they waited for Ms. Tsukumo to explain what they would be doing now. So, as it is still the first day, there won't be too much to do, but we'll have a little test. At the students' groans, she quickly clarified. It's nothing too bad, just a physical test. Taking out a bag from behind the teacher's desk, she put it at the front of the class. In here are your gym uniforms. They're marked for who they are, so take yours, go change and meet me at the training grounds. I'll explain what we're doing when we get there. Dash 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 dash. When the class finally came out onto the field, their teacher finally explained what they would be doing. Today we're simply going to do a quirk apprehension test. You know those tests your schools make you do during PE? Yeah, we'll be doing those, but you're allowed to use your quirks. Then, she pulled out a baseball, before looking towards Izuku. Midoriya, you scored the highest during the entrance exam. What was your record on the ball throw during middle school? About 70 meters, I think. Impressive. Now try to do it with your quirk. Yuki said, passing the ball to the teen. Just go into the circle and do whatever you can think of to get it as far as possible. Izuku nodded, getting into the circle. Now, what should he do? If he could control One for All, it would have been easy, but he could only reliably use Lightning God. Though, that still gave him a lot to work with. Ms. Tsukumo, if I charged the ball with electricity, would it fry the sensor within it? He asked. His teacher looked at him for a moment, as if thinking about something, before shrugging. If you don't use as much force as you did at the end of the exam, it should be fine. All right, that made things easier. Charging the ball with a negative charge, he threw it high into the air. Then, he put his hands together in a fingergun, charging as big of a positive charge as he could, and when the ball was 4 meters from the ground, he shot the bolt into the ball, making it fly off into the distance. His teacher whistled. Creative use of your quirk, I'll give you that. Then, she revealed the screen of her phone to the class, it reading 789.4 meters. And very effective as well. Holy hell, that's manly. Alright, I'm pumped up now. This will be so much fun. That last comment got their teacher's attention, which caused her to speak up. While it will most likely be fun for you, remember that this is to test your limits and see how well you do. Then, a smirk appeared on her face, as if challenging the class. Use everything you can think of, and don't you dare hold back, because villains in the field absolutely won't. Plus Ultra, right. This caused the class to also scream out a Plus Ultra before going to the first test. Izuku smiled. He was so ready for this. Walking back to his class, he was so ready to do this, when he felt as if someone pulled a hair from his head. Huh, he muttered, looking around, but nothing seemed out of the norm, though it looked like the black-haired boy that was sitting at the back of the classroom was swallowing something. Weird. 50-meter dash. Up first was Iida and a frog-like girl. They got ready at the starting line, and at the robot's signal, they started running. Or, with Iida, it looked like he just appeared 50 meters past the finish line. 0.5 seconds. The robot called out. Then, when the frog girl crossed, it called out a 5.58 seconds. Iida looked lost in thought, before muttering, I see. So my projection only reaches 100 meters so far. I need to train more to reach the same lengths as my brother. Too lost in thought, he didn't notice the black-haired boy reach up and grab a hair of his. But Izuku noticed, and he also noticed the boy eat said hair. Do I even want to know? He thought, before seeing him in a Bara line up to the starting line. Again, the robot gave its signal, and again, a student appeared 50 meters past the finish line. 0.5 seconds. The robot called out. A little after, Abara also crossed the line, riding her vines to be faster. 4.98 seconds. However, Izuku didn't pay attention to that, looking instead towards the boy. Was that Iida's quirk just now? It would explain how they had the exact same time and looked exactly the same while moving. But how did he do that? He didn't have too much time to think though, as he was up next. Standing next to Katsuki, he got ready for the robot's signal, and at that, he charged Lightning God through himself at max, running forwards. 3.73 seconds. The robot called out as he passed the finish line before saying, 3.89 seconds, as Katsuki crossed it. So I'm both faster than you, and beat you during the entrance exam. You really need to get better, Kachan. Katsuki simply huffed though, flicking his friend on the head. Yeah, we both know who punches harder and whose quirk hits harder though, now don't we? He said, and Izuku simply looked off to the side, whistling. Grip strength. Izuku channeled Lightning God through himself, squeezing the device as hard as he could. Looking down, he saw a 102.4 kilograms greet him back. Honestly, not bad. Looking around, he saw Abara wrap her vines around the device, before squeezing, and holy shit. 913.6 kilograms. What? Shaking his head, he continued to look around, noticing the black-haired boy, using Lightning God. Now, to others, it may have looked just like any other electricity-based quirk, but Izuku knew his quirk by heart. And that was 100% Lightning God. Not only did he use Iida's quirk, he also used mine. How? Then, he remembered what connected the two of them. He ate a piece of our hair. So, I got it. He looked at the black-haired boy, understanding in his eyes. You copy quirks by ingesting someone's DNA, don't you? Standing long jump. All in all, Izuku didn't do too badly. With a blast of lighting to shoot himself upwards, and his own strength from Lightning God, he cleared the sandbox, though not by much. Katsuki did much better than him, using his own quirk to simply fly over it, and was wasting no time flexing. Yeah, I get it, now let me watch our classmates. However, something else came to mind. Hey, did you feel someone grab a hair from your head? Katsuki looked confused for a moment, before nodding. Now that you mention it, I did. Wait, how do you know about that? Izuku simply pointed towards the black-haired boy, who was getting ready for the jump. Just watch and see, his friend grunted, but did as told, looking at him. The boy got ready, put his hands behind his back and jumped. It seemed fine for a moment, before explosions started to shoot out of his hands, flying over the sandbox the same way Katsuki did, though landing not nearly as gracefully. What the? Katsuki said, before looking at his friend. How the hell did he do that? However, before Izuku could explain, he snapped his fingers. He has a copy quirk, doesn't he? Yeah, and if my theory is right, he needs to consume a piece of DNA to do so. Izuku said. The black-haired boy noticed the two of them staring at him, and awkwardly waved. Izuku waved back, while Katsuki simply nodded back. Honestly, his quirk is so cool. He seems to get at least a basic understanding of how the quirks he copies work, otherwise he wouldn't be able to do the things I've seen him do. Katsuki hummed, before the two of them got ready for the next test. Repeated sidesteps. Not being able to do too much here, Izuku simply channeled Lightning God through himself, hoping to get as many sidesteps as possible. All around, he got the most sidesteps in, though not by too much. Ball throw. Izuku watched his classmates throw the ball from the sidelines. As he had already done it, he was free to sit it out and write down notes on his classmates' quirks. They were all so fascinating. There was a girl that removed the gravity from objects, a boy that shot lasers from his stomach, a pink-skinned girl who shot an acid-like substance, and a boy that could create some massive ice constructs. However, there was one quirk which he just couldn't figure out, Ida's. It seemed as if it just made him really fast, but he had said something about a range. That really messed with his theories about it. And, when he tried to focus really hard on his movements, they seemed weird. He moved so fast it was hard to notice, but it almost seemed as if they were predetermined. As if once he starts to move, he can't stop himself. Perhaps that was why he didn't stop at the finish line, but way past it. Well, he'll ask at some point. Now, he was looking at Abara wrap her vines around the ball, before spinning them around and throwing it in the distance. 521.7 meters. Nice job, Shiozaki, their teacher said, and Abara bowed down to her. She did that quite a lot now that he thought about it. Next up was Katsuki. He got into the circle, throwing the ball up and down in his hand. Then, with a yell of, "Die!" he created a massive explosion, shooting the ball to high heaven. Yuki looked down at her phone before giggling about something. Izuku was confused for a moment, but when she showed Katsuki's score, he understood. 789.5 meters. Of course, he got 10 centimeters more than him, of course he did. He also saw the black-haired boy Okatsu, he's pretty sure that's what Ms. Tsukumo called him, throw the ball, and it just didn't come back down. He probably copied the zero-gravity girl's quirk. That meant he could also copy mutations. Wow, his quirk was cool. Though, the whole eating someone's DNA, probably, he still wasn't entirely sure that was the case, was a pretty big drawback. Dash 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 dash. And finally, with the last 3 tests completed, he got one more sit-up than Kachan and laughed so hard at him, he almost fell over. It was time to look at their results. Good work everyone, you all did much better than I had expected. With that, Yuki clicked on something on her phone and a hologram of the rankings showed up. Looking at it, he saw that he had placed third, below the ice boy, Shoto Todoroki. That name seemed familiar. Who was second? And the black-haired boy, Yuta Okatsu, so he had heard right. However, he had beaten Kachan, and he was absolutely thrilled. Don't worry too much about where you ranked. Some of you have quirks that don't really help with these tests, but you still tried your hardest. Now, go back to the classroom, your syllabus should be on your desk. Go grab it and after that, you're all dismissed. And with that, their teacher turned around and started to walk away in the opposite direction of the classroom. That was probably where the staff room was. And so the class went back to the classroom. After grabbing their things, Izuku and Katsuki went on their way towards the train station. So, how do you feel about the first day at this school? Izuku asked his friend, turning to him to see his reaction. The fact that Star Rage is our teacher is still in with my head. Katsuki said. Oh yeah, he forgot she was his second favorite hero, after All Might. He could understand why though, they both shared this absolute love for the thrill of the fight and had a pretty big shit-talking streak. And some of our classmates seem strong. I hope they can give me a challenge on my trip to the #1 spot. As if, we both know I'm going to be the #1, you'll be chasing behind me our entire career. Izuku said. Katsuki jabbed him in the stomach for the comment, causing Izuku to jab him back. The two continued to play fight, until they heard a voice from behind them. May I please join you two on your journey home, Midoriya, Bakugo? When they turned around, they saw Abara standing there, that same ethereal smile on her face. Izuku started stammering, confused as to why she would want to join them, but before he could dig himself into a hole, Katsuki said a simple, sure, before continuing to walk forward. Many thanks. And so the three started walking forward together, for a whole total of 3 steps, before they heard another voice call out from behind them. Hey, excuse me, are you heading towards the train station? They, once again, turned around and saw Yuta running towards them. I only recently moved to Musudafu and was hoping you could help me get to it. I don't want to get lost. Sure, that's fine with us, right? Izuku said, turning towards the others too. Abara nodded, and while Katsuki seemed as if he was about to argue about it, he simply shrugged. Thank you, the black-haired boy said. Then, he started speaking once again. If I got your names right, you were Izuku Midoriya, sure. Abara Shiozaki, that is correct. And Katsuki Bakugo. The one and only. Yuta nodded, happy he got them all correct. In case you didn't catch my name though, I'm Yuta Okatsu. It's a pleasure to meet you all, he said, smiling lightly at the 3 of them. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Okatsu, though I have a question for you. At Yuta's nod, Izuku asked what had been eating at him since earlier. How does your quirk work? I know it's a copy-based quirk, but how do you use it? Do you have to consume someone's DNA to use it? Was that why you ate some of our hair? I'm sorry, he did what? Yuta seemed shocked for a moment, before laughing lightly. Yeah, you got that right. I have to eat something that has someone's DNA in it to be able to use their quirk. I can use it for 5 minutes, before having to take a break from that specific quirk for about 15 minutes. That's such a cool ability. Izuku, where the hell did you even pull that out from? Katsuki asked, looking at his friend who was writing down the new information in his notebook. Language, Abara said, shooting the blonde teen a dirty look. Katsuki simply blew her a raspberry, causing one of her eyes to twitch. Are you perhaps a 4-year-old, Bakugo? Because you sure act like one. Nah, I'm just being myself. Sorry if that pisses you off, Viney. Oh, I swear. Izuku's sweat dropped at the 2 of them. Their personalities sure clashed. Oh well, not his circus, not his monkeys. Turning back to Yuta, he asked his final question, for now. So, how many quirks can you copy at a time? The other teen, who was watching the bickering pair, turned back to Izuku, ready to answer his question. Oh, I can copy 5. Then, he suddenly stopped talking, a haunted look in his eyes. However, just as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared, with Yuta finishing his answer. 4. I can copy 4 quirks at a time, but can swap immediately if the need arises. Izuku, slightly concerned at the pause in the middle of his answer, simply just nodded, writing it down in his notebook. Oh well, he could see the train station from here, so it was almost time to say goodbye to his new friends. Still though, if today was anything to go by, his time at UA would certainly be interesting. Dash 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 dash. Yuta waved the other 3 goodbye as they got on their train, sitting on the bench waiting for his own. They were nice. He was glad he could be their friend. Though, Midoriya's quirk was weird. It almost felt as if it was multiple diff. Why did you not use me today, Yuta? A chill suddenly went down his spine at the sound of a voice he was incredibly familiar with. Am I not good enough for you anymore? Do you not love me anymore? Yuta. Get out of my head. You're not who you're pretending to be. He whispered. Then he added on. Why must you corrupt that quirk with your existence? The curse continued to talk, but he didn't listen. This thing couldn't be her. She had been dead for 5 years, after all. Chapter text. Izuku's second day of school was actually fairly normal so far. Sure, his teachers were all pro-heroes, but other than that, the classes seemed like every other school's. Although, Ms. Midnight's class sure was something. He could practically feel Abara losing her mind over every innuendo she said. Other than that, though, it was fairly normal. Lunch was also extremely ordinary, except for the fact that it was made by Lunch Rush to absolute perfection. And judging by the way Katsuki was eating his spicy noodles, he absolutely agreed. It was so good it beat his mother's in some ways, though he would never admit that to her. Although, nothing, and he means absolutely nothing, will be able to beat her Katsudon. That was absolutely divine. So, who do you guys think this Shota Aizawa is? Yuta asked, looking up from his own food. Katsuki grunted, shrugging his shoulders, while Abara said a simple, I have no clue. Izuku, however, put some thought into it, before answering. Well, he's a pro-hero, that's for certain. Every teacher at UA is, after all. And since none of us know anything about him, he's most likely an underground hero. He explained. Yuta nodded, happy with the answer. However, Izuku wasn't finished yet. The scarf he wore also seemed familiar. I'm pretty sure I've heard of someone using a similar accessory as a weapon, but I can't for the life of me remember who. Katsuki, finished with his food, decided to finally put his 2 cents in. It doesn't really matter who he is, if UA chose him, he's definitely good at what he's supposed to do. Then, he let out a small explosion, which caused Izuku and Abara to start lecturing him about using his quirk indoors. He simply ignored them though, finishing what he was saying. And that's teaching us how to use our quirks better. That's a good point actually, Yuta said. If he's a teacher at UA, he's most likely good. The others nodded, before also finishing their food. They got up and looked at the clock. 10 minutes until the start of class. Let us depart for class then. We shall very soon meet this man and see his character for ourselves. And with that, they were off. Dash 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 dash. So, what do you guys think our first quirk theory class will be about? A yellow-haired boy asked the rest of his class. I'm probably going to need it quite a lot if it is actually teaching us how to use our quirks. He added on, nervously scratching the back of his head. Perhaps he would also teach us the history of quirks themselves and their evolution. Iida added on, it would make quite a bit of sense to teach us the nature of quirks and how to use them. The rest of the class nodded, before continuing to chat, waiting for their teacher to show up. However, too lost in their conversations, they didn't notice the classroom door slide open and their teacher enter. Well, that wasn't entirely true. Izuku noticed him, and quickly cut off his conversation with Abara to try and get his class to quiet down. And when they finally did, their teacher finally spoke up. "It took you all 12 seconds to quiet down, and only 4 of you managed to notice me. That's hardly rational, but I know Sukuma will be able to do something about it in the future." Then he took a pause to drink something from a little bag, before continuing on. "My name is Shota Aizawa, and I'll be your quirk theory teacher for the next 3 years. I hope you can impress me. You are all most likely wondering what we will be doing during these classes, and to answer that, I will be teaching you everything you need to know about quirks," Aizawa said, his voice monotone, but in his eyes something Izuku couldn't recognize. "Between how to use your own quirk as efficiently as possible, to be able to figure out what your opponent can do. By the end of these 3 years, I expect you all to be able to perfectly realize your potential." Iida put his hand up then, and when Aizawa allowed him, he asked, "Mr. Aizawa, since we would need space to practice our quirks, will these classes be practical like PE?" Aizawa hummed, before answering the teen's question. "Quirk theory will be different to your other classes, as we will be cycling between theoretical and practical lessons. So, since we have 4 of these classes a week, Monday and Thursday will be the theoretical classes, while Tuesday and Friday will be the practical ones." Then, he grabbed a marker, before writing down, Class 1AQUIRKS, on the board. "For today, I just want you to give me an explanation of how your quirks work, what you think its greatest strength is and what you think is its main drawback. I already know the basics of how they work, as I read your files, but they never have the full information about what you can do in them." Then, he looked towards a blond boy sitting at the front of the class. "We'll be doing this in seating order, so Aoyama, you're first." And thus it began. Izuku listened and wrote down all the information about his classmates he could. Some were rather simple, like the girl who shot acid out of her hands, or the boy who had tape dispensers in his elbows, but some were so complicated they caused his brain to fry. For example, Iida's quirk, projection. It allowed him to pick 24 positions in his field of view, up to 100 meters from himself, and then go through them in 1 second. He had so many questions about it. Like, how does that even work? How can that even be a quirk? Then again, Kashimo-sensei's old rival had a quirk that made him immortal to everything except old age, and he was pretty sure he saw a boy with a speech bubble for a head in the halls, so he shouldn't be too shocked. Another quirk he found very interesting was Tokiyami's dark shadow. While his quirk felt like it had a mind of its own from time to time, his was quite literally another being. That was so cool, it made him wonder how many other sentient quirks there were. He ignored the 2 quirks within him pulsing at that thought, because if he thought too hard about that, he would most likely have a panic attack. Then, finally, his turn came up. So he went up to his teacher and started explaining, the same way he did to All Might 9 months ago. "My quirk, Lightning God, changes the nature of my blood. Instead of regular blood plasma, I have electricity coursing through my veins, which I can actively channel through and out of my body." Aizawa nodded at this, writing down the name and a basic description of the quirk. "For its greatest strength, I would say its versatility. I can use Lightning God for just about anything if I'm creative enough. I can use it to enhance my physical body, which also includes my perception, use it to attack with lightning strikes, and it even gives me a regeneration factor, as long as I have electricity in me." Aizawa hummed. He had noticed most of those things during the entrance exam, though he didn't know about the regeneration. That would prove quite useful. As for the drawback, I can also discharge myself, the same way Kaminari does. However, for me, the symptoms are closer to severe blood loss. That caused Aizawa to turn back to him, asking a question. "Is that what happened to you at the end of the entrance exam?" He was worried he was going to ask that. Well, time to figure out a lie that Bakugo would buy. "Yes, sir. Recently, my quirk seems to have increased its output, and I still don't have full control of that much energy yet." He side-eyed his friend, trying to gauge his reaction. Katsuki seemed indifferent, thank the gods. He was worried he would find his explanation suspicious. "Very well, we'll work on controlling your output in that case. Now sit back down." And with that, His part was done, and all that was left was Obara and Yuta, whose quirks he already knew. Still though, he listened out for any new information, but was a little disappointed. He had already guessed Obara would be sensitive to temperatures, but confirmation was great to have. And he already knew about Yuta's timer, so that wasn't anything new. Good, I'd say I got a decent understanding of all of your quirks now, so I should be able to make some plans on how all of you can improve. Their teacher said, before looking at something through the window. Tomorrow is your first practical quirk lesson, so I expect you all to give it your most then, but for now this is all. Class dismissed. And with that, Aizawa reached behind the teacher's podium and pulled out a sleeping bag, which he then got into and promptly fell asleep. Izuku simply ignored how weird that was, however, and started heading towards his next class. After all, there was one thing left for today, Hero Basics. Dash 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 dash. The class waited in the classroom, wondering who their mystery teacher would be. Some people were discussing it, but Izuku wasn't listening to them, as he already had a fairly good idea of who it would be. And what he heard next confirmed his suspicions. I am here. That's when All Might came in, posing at the door like the big doofus Izuku knew he was. Coming through the door like a normal person. You sure aren't, Mr. Yagi. Oh my god, it's All Might. He'll be our teacher. That's so cool. He's even wearing his Silver Age costume. So retro. And here I thought having Star Rage as our homeroom teacher would be the manliest thing that would happen to our class. Yes, I'm sure you're all very excited, but please do settle down. The pro said, getting behind the podium. Then, when the class finally calmed down, he started explaining. For your first hero class, we'll be jumping right into the heat of things with battle training. At that, Izuku and Katsuki turned to look at each other, before each reaching out a hand and shaking it. May the better man win, Kachan. You don't need to worry about that. I'll be winning just fine. Oh, I swear, I'll beat you until you start singing my praises, Blasty. That's when the two felt something hit them over the head. Turning towards the source, they saw Obara's vibes hanging in the air and coiling like snakes. Then, they turned to said girl, who simply pointed towards their teacher, who was watching their interaction with a curious smile on his face. Oh, sorry about that, sir. Yeah. We didn't mean to get carried away. It's fine. Now then, let's get back to work. The pro then pressed a button on a remote he had on him, which caused 20 suitcases to come out of the wall. In these suitcases are the hero costumes you sent to be made. Change into them and meet me at Training Ground Beta. And with that, All Might was out of the door. Izuku ran over to the case with his name on it and grabbed it. Oh yes, he was so ready for this. Dash 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 dash. When Izuku came out of the tunnel to the training ground, most of his classmates were already there, with their costumes on. Some of the ones he saw were pretty cool, but he liked his own quite a lot more. After all, he was the one who designed it, basing it mostly on Kashimo-sensei's old hero costume. He was wearing a large dark green robe with a scrunched-up collar. His sleeves were cut short, revealing dark gray bandages wrapped around his forearms. A slightly shorter than him iron bow staff was strapped to his back. He was also wearing a matching set of pants, the same dark green color as his robe. His clothes were padded for extra protection, but not enough to limit his movement in any way. Last were a pair of red sneakers with white lightning patterns, their soles reinforced with a metallic substance. He wondered if his classmates would notice he had just copied the previous number 1 hero's hero costume and just painted it green and gray. Well, he had retired over 15 years ago now, so it wasn't too lick. Midoriya, is that Raijin's hero costume? Never mind, Yuta immediately noticed. He looked over to his friend, who was wearing a white uniform jacket and a pair of dark pants that were tucked into his white sneakers. However, The thing that caught his attention the most was the bag Yuta had over his shoulder, that he recognized as a weapon bag. "Oh, you use a weapon too, Okatsu?" he asked, to which his friend nodded. Then, when he opened it up, he pulled out a katana. He was pretty sure that it was illegal for most people to own that. "I can already tell what you'll say. No, the katana isn't real, the school forced me to change it for a blunt one." That meant he had a normal one. Deciding not to think about the implications of that, he looked next to Yuta Atabara, who had come over when she noticed the two of them. All around, her costume was also fairly simple, just a white dress-like robe with some black boots, but they really suited her, if he said so himself. Ah, she was talking to him, he really should pay more attention. "And it does suit you quite well. Though, why are the soles of your shoes reinforced?" Oh, questions about his costume. That was easy, he could answer those in his sleep. "Ah, I was thinking, since I can't channel lighting through my feet, because of the soles, insulation, I still wanted my kicks to have more force behind them," he said, before channeling lightning through himself and throwing out a punch. "When I hit something while using my quirk, it has a sort of double impact, once from my blow and a second time from the lightning. Can't do that through an insulator, so I just reinforced them with steel." "Smart idea, Izuku. I was thinking about doing that with my own shoes, since explosion only works on my arms, but didn't in the end," Katsuki said from behind him, finally coming out of the tunnel. "Maybe I'll change it in the future though, not too sure," he added on, crossing his arms over his chest. "You'll be fine, Kachan, you don't use your legs as much as I do for combat," Izuku said, then pointed down to the gauntlets his friend was wearing. "Plus, those things will more than make up for any lost output, if they work like how we discussed they would." "Oh, you bet they do. They say the clothes make the hero, and you are prime examples of this. You already look like professionals," All Might said, catching the class' attention. Then, he pulled out a small handbook, causing Izuku to giggle slightly. "Now, let's get to work. Today's battle training will be 2v2 indoors combat. One team will be the villains, who need to protect a bomb prop or defeat the other team, and the other, heroes, who need to capture the villains or secure the bomb." "Sir, how are we going to pick teams? Isn't this exercise a bit too advanced for us, Kiro? Isn't my cape just magnifique?" some people from his class asked, not bothering to wait for answers. "Please, one at a time," the pro said, before quickly answering their questions. "Teams will be decided through lots. I believe the quicker you get to the advanced exercises, the quicker you'll improve. And yes, it does look great on you. Sir, are you sure it's a good idea for teams to be left up to chance?" Iida asked, but before All Might could answer, Izuku did. "While out on the field, you can't be certain who you'll be teamed up with. This could be a great exercise in adapting to any situation." "Wonderfully put, young Midoriya. Now, let's get started." And with that, the class went up to the boxes that would tell them their teams, each pulling out a ball with a letter on them. "Huh, looks like I'm on the same team as you, Viney," Katsuki called out, turning to look at the vine-haired girl. Abara's eye in turn twitched, annoyed at the nickname. "I told you to stop calling me that." Yeah, now, I know you're strong, so don't hold me back, got it?" Abara sighed. While Katsuki was, himself, she knew he was incredibly talented. So, biting down her annoyance, she smiled at him and held out a hand to shake. "To our victory, in that case." Katsuki smirked back at her, shaking her hand. "Oh, you bet. ... The two of us, huh, Okatsu?" Izuku asked, tossing a ball with an A on it in his hand, to which his friend nodded. "Great, I'm sure we'll be able to beat just about anyone together. Plus, if you copy Lightning God, I can give you some tips on how to use it efficiently." "That would be great, your quirk is quite fun to use," Yuta said, excitement in his eyes. "Although, I have a question about it." At Izuku's go-to, Yuta breathed in before starting. "Do you have Mull? Now then. Let's get started with the matches," All Might called out, cutting off Yuta's question. He then pulled out two balls, one of them having an A on it, and the other, N. I. Team A. will be the heroes, while Team I, the villains. The pro called out. That meant him and Yuta were up first and their opponents were Todoroki and Zero. Great, he was going to have to fight the recommendation student. It was fine though, he was strong. So, how do you think our match will go? Yuta asked, to which Izuku smirked. If Todoroki froze me solid, he'd give me a little trouble. Yuta was confused for a second, before asking another question. But, do you think we'd lose? Nah, we'd win. That was really cheesy. I know, that's why I said it. Dash 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 dash. So, do you have plan, Midoriya? Yuta asked, the two of them looking down at the map of the building. I have an idea, but I'm not too sure if it would work. I also have a plan, but I want to hear yours as well. Maybe we can come up with an even better one together. Izuku said, to which Yuta nodded. So, I was thinking that. And so the two discussed what they would be able to do. Then, All Might gave the signal of the start of the battle and the two didn't enter. They circled around, until they were at the back of the building, until finally, the whole building froze over. I knew it. Come on, we need to go in now. They probably think we're frozen at the entrance. Izuku said, before activating Lightning God and helping Yuta get up to a second-story window. Then he followed after him, shooting himself up with his staff. We have maybe 1 minute before they realize we aren't trapped. Now, let's go. And with that, the two of them went around the second floor, trying to find the bomb. However, it wasn't there, so they went up to the next floor to look there. It's not in the southern part of the third floor. Any luck where you are? Yuta asked through his earpiece. However, Izuku answered him with a negative. Damn it, I'm heading to the fourth floor. Let's meet the, oh no you don't. Quickly dodging 2 streams of tape, Yuta jumped back, seeing Zero standing near the staircase to the fourth floor. Okatsu, what happened? Izuku asked, and Yuta could hear him running through the earpiece. Don't mind me, it's only Zero. Continue searching for the bomb. Got it. Yuta then dodged a piece of tape again, activating Lightning God to increase his speed, almost falling over due to the ice. How does Midoriya keep his balance so well at these speeds? Wow, only Zero. You hurt my feelings, Okatsu. His opponent said, before shooting out even more tape to try and capture Yuta. However, the other boy continued dodging, trying to slide and close the distance between the two of them. Zero shot a piece of tape to the roof, using it to swing backwards so that Yuta couldn't get close. Sorry to say it, Zero, but you're not the big threat of your team. Yuta said, and once again, tried to get in close. If only All Might had allowed him to copy the quirks of his other classmates, he would have been done with this by now. Well, it was fine. Lightning God will be more than enough. Zero continued to swing backwards, while trying to capture Yuta. Yuta saw the piece of tape flying towards him, and finally decided to put his theory to the test. He let the tape wrap around his arm and quickly channeled Lightning God through it, to no avail. So, Zero's tape wasn't conductive. Good to know. Ha, got you and whoa. Before Zero could continue his taunt, he felt himself being pulled by his tape to Yuta, who quickly pulled out his blunt katana, charged it with electricity before slamming it in his opponent's stomach. This trick made his katana work like a taser, and Zero fell over, small shocks still coursing through him. I'm sorry about that, Yuta said, before wrapping Zero up with the capture tape. Honta Zero has been captured. He heard from his earpiece, before it turned on again, this time with Izuku's voice coming through. Nice one. Now get up here, 5th floor, northeastern side. Todoroki is being annoying. Yuta gave an affirmative, grabbing a hair from his fallen opponent. 1 down, 1 more to go. Dash 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 dash. Izuku felt like he was just losing time. The bomb was nowhere to be found. He had scoured the entirety of the 4th floor and almost the entirety of the 5th, yet nothing. Not even Todoroki. Yeah, you just go ahead and find the bomb, I'll be here fighting. Yeah, well I also wanted to fight, Okatsu. Sigh, it's fine, I'll just go beat Todoroki. Izuku muttered out, going around a corner. See, that's why I like the kid. He's got spirit. What the foo? Before he could wonder about what the hell he had just heard, he felt the same sharp pain as he did during the entrance exam. Deciding to trust whatever it was, he jumped backwards, just in time to dodge a giant wall of ice. Well, whatever this head pain is, it's definitely helpful. Oh, you dodged, he heard from behind the ice, before it shattered, Todoroki coming. Well, it doesn't matter. You're nothing compared to me. He then threw his right foot forwards, ice shooting from it. Izuku dodged to the side, shooting off from the wall at his opponent. The boy, however, simply created an ice wall to block him off. That didn't deter Izuku though, shoving his staff into the ice before swinging it upwards, destroying the wall in the process. Todoroki stood behind it, a small look of shock on his face. Now then Todoroki, let's dance, Izuku said, before the full force of Lightning God started shooting out of him. He rushed towards the other boy, jumping up and trying to axe kick him. Todoroki, however, simply covered his hand in a thick covering of ice, trying to block the kick with that. However, to his surprise, the ice shattered, and the kick landed on his arm. Goo, he grunted, jumping back before the kick hurt him too much. What's wrong, Todoroki? Too much for you to handle, Izuku taunted, trying to follow up on his attack with a horizontal swing of his staff. The other boy simply swung his hand up, sending a wave of ice to force Izuku back. He, however, simply grinned, before vaulting over the wave with his staff, and trying to fly kick Todoroki. He never connected with him though, as a wall of ice was constructed in front of his opponent, stopping him in his tracks. Then, he felt the same warning head pain, so he jumped off of the wall before it exploded into spikes. Was the other boy trying to kill him or something? Come out Todoroki, he yelled out, before charging up his staff, and sending out a ball of lightning through it. Then, when it connected with the wall, it exploded, shattering it in the process. However, what he wasn't expecting, was for Todoroki to be waiting for him at the other side, slamming his hand on the floor and sending mire ice spikes at Izuku. He started dodging them, breaking any that got too close. Too preoccupied with that, he didn't notice Todoroki running up to him, until he was right there, trying to grab at him with his right hand. He blocked the grab with his staff, but ice quickly started to crawl over it. Izuku forced Todoroki to let go, before kicking him in the stomach to send him back. That didn't deter the dual-haired boy though, and as he rolled to a stop, he shot his right hand out, a giant wave of ice covering almost the entirety of the room. Alright then, if that's how you want to play, Izuku screamed out, before charging as much energy as he could into his hands, before starting to slam them into the ground. Raijin's drum beating, the energy he had charged up crawled all over the floor, moving through the moisture created by the ice, destroying most of it. That left Todoroki exposed, and by the look of shock on his face, he wasn't ready. Now, time to end this, Izuku said, charging as much electricity in himself as he could. That reminded him though, why wasn't he running out of charge? Was this one for all's influence on his quirk? Cool, he can think about this later, now he had an opponent to beat. Maximum technique, Indra's domain. With that call, he did the same move he had used on the zero-pointer, sending out the build-up charge in a field around himself. Todoroki, realizing that this could prove very troublesome, created a thick cocoon of ice around himself, the lighting from the field hitting it. However, it couldn't shatter it, as any time it got too close to breaking, Todoroki reinforced it again and again. Then, from within the cocoon, he created more ice all around the floor, hoping to catch his opponent. He heard the electricity field quiet down, and exited the cocoon, looking around for his frozen opponent. However, he was nowhere to be found. That's when he felt a kick hit him on the back of the head, knocking him forwards. He turned around, seeing Izuku, hanging off of his staff, which was stuck in the roof, smirking down at him. Todoroki grunted, shooting out a giant wave of ice at him, enjoying the flash of panic on his opponent's face. Izuku let go of his staff, jumping backwards to dodge the ice. Great, he lost his staff. Although, give up, you can't beat me, he heard from his opponent, before looking at him. Todoroki was standing there, frost covering his right side. This was fine, actually. They were fairly even, and he still had a lot of juice in his battery. Now all he had to do is, Hantashiro has been captured. Never mind, this works even better. Nice one. Now get up here, 5th floor, northeastern side. Todoroki is being annoying, he said through his earpiece, and at Yuta's affirmative, he turned back towards his opponent. Let's finish this up quickly, I don't want to rely on Okatsu too much. And with that, Izuku shot forward, going to the right. His opponent's eyes widened, and he tried to shoot ice at Izuku, who seemed to be ignoring it. However, Todoroki would have never expected what happened next. Just as the ice wave was about to hit him, Izuku did a pulling motion with his left hand, while shooting a bolt of lightning with his right. His trapped staff sparked, the excess charge left over in it shooting at the bolt Izuku sent, until the two collided in the ice, causing it to get completely destroyed, allowing Izuku to freely run at the other boy. With that, the green-haired boy was finally able to close the distance between them. Izuku punched Todoroki in the stomach with his left hand, at the same time shooting a small bit of electricity into him. The other boy tried to grab him with his right arm, but Izuku used his left knee to block the strike. Then, he jumped up, kneeing the other boy in the chest. That, however, left him open to a punch Todoroki threw at him with his left arm, before grabbing Izuku with his right one. Frost started crawling up the green-haired boy's hand, but he didn't mind. Instead, he grabbed Todoroki by his shirt, throwing him over his shoulder onto the ground. He pulled out the capture tape and just as he was about to win the round for his team, flames burst out of Todoroki's left side. What the hell? Izuku asked, jumping back from the growing inferno. However, as quickly as they came about, they died down. Todoroki then looked up at him with what could only be described as hatred in his eyes. You made me use his flames, he called out, before blindly shooting out a wave of ice at Izuku. However, what he wasn't expecting was to suddenly be wrapped up in tape from behind. Looking back, he saw Yuta standing there, tape coming out of his elbows, and just as he was about to escape, he felt a different tape being wrapped around him. Shoto Todoroki has been captured. Hero team wins. Nice assist there, Okatsu. Izuku called out, giving his friend a high five. However, Todoroki wasn't listening to them, instead staring directly at the green-haired boy. I couldn't beat him. Even if Okatsu didn't appear, he most likely would have won. If I can't even beat one of my classmates, how could I become number one with only my mother's quirk? Chapter text. When Izuku, Yuta, Todoroki and Shiro got to the control room, they were immediately greeted by their classmates. That was awesome. What were those moves you did, Midoriya? I didn't realize you could copy mutant-type quirks, Okatsu. What were those flames at the end? I thought your quirk was just ice, Todoroki. The last question seemed to make the ice-cold boy even angrier than he already was, as he stalked off to the back of the room. Izuku didn't pay him much mind though, instead locked in a conversation with his best friend. So, you've been holding out on me during training, Haven't seen you pull that shit before, Katsuki said, putting his arm around Izuku's shoulder and bringing him close. The other boy simply pushed him away though, flicking him on the forehead as he did. Most of the maximum techniques I came up with recently, so I haven't had much time to practice them. Didn't want to accidentally hurt you too badly because I lost control, he said, before pulling out his notebook to write down some notes about Todoroki. Those flames, they felt so strong. He wanted to fight against him again, this time both of them giving it their all. Although he seemed really unhappy, he used them. I wonder what that's all about. What a great match. All Might suddenly called out, getting the class attention. Now, Could anyone tell me who the MVP of the match was? It was Okatsu, sir. A tall, black-haired girl with a high ponytail called out, before starting to explain her reasoning. He was able to stick to the plan, quickly and efficiently capture one of the targets and help his teammate secure the other. Midoriya was too focused on his fight and didn't capitalize on the moments he had to capture Todoroki, while he didn't use half of his quirk, losing him the entire match. Then, she looked off to the side at Zero, before continuing on with a slightly pitying look. Zero didn't do anything wrong, per se, he was just frankly outmatched. "You're wonderfully put, young Yaoyorozu," their teacher said, a nervous bead of sweat rolling down his face. "Now then, let's get on to the next match." And with that, Izuku slowly zoned out, paying just enough attention to see what his classmates were made out of, but mostly, he was deep in thought about the voice he heard during the battle trial, and the weird head pain he's been getting since he got One for All. The voice was gruff, for starters. The speaker sounded like he was in his early 30s. Maybe late 20s at most, so that meant it couldn't have been a student. But it can't have been one of the teachers either. None of the ones he knew had mental quirks, and the one whose quirk he didn't know yet, Aizawa, didn't sound anything like the voice. But the speaker wasn't the only thing he was worried about. What they said also alarmed him. "See, that's why I like the kid. He's got spirit." That meant that whoever it was that said this has been watching him for at least some time, enough to get at least a basic idea of his personality. And that worried him. He prided himself on his great instincts, and yet he didn't realize he was being watched in the slightest. That was terrifying. I can speak to All Might about that later. For now, what is that head pain? While he was very thankful for his new built-in danger sense, he had no idea where it came from. All Might did say my quirk would change once I got One for All, but is this it? No, I simply had my output on everything increased. All of a sudden, having borderline precognition has nothing in common with what Lightning God originally was. So what could this even be? Then, he thought back to what All Might had told him back when he first explained to him the head pain. He said it sounded like a quirk he had heard about, but couldn't remember from where. He then looked towards his mentor, who was watching the multi-armed boy, Shoji he thinks, use one of his opponents as an impromptu flail by grabbing her by the tongue and throwing her at her teammate, Tokiyami, who was too busy dealing with Uraraka to notice until it was too late. Ouch. Maybe he can help me figure it out. When I go talk to him later, I'll mention it and hope he agrees. He looked back towards the screen, where the two animal-looking students were tied up, as All Might announced the winner. Well, I'll worry about that later. For now, I have Kachan's match to watch. Dash 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 dash. Now time for the final match. All Might called out, before pulling out the two balls. And from the looks of it, his team were heroes. When you get to the building, I'll give you the signal, and you'll have 10 minutes to plan and set up. After that, the final match commences. The pro said, and Katsuki didn't wait much more, walking out of the control room with Abara behind him. He looked over towards the enemy team, glasses and ponytail. That was interesting. Both of them seemed quite good at what they did, so at least he wouldn't be bored. Now, he just needed a plan. Viney, anything coming to mind yet? He called back to his teammate, who seemed as lost in thought as him. Abara shot him a glare at the nickname, but didn't comment, instead starting to speak. While Yaoyorozu's quirk is incredibly versatile, and can be used to create just about anything, I'm not really as worried about her as I am worried about Iida. His speed is simply too much for me to handle. Katsuki hummed, understanding where she was coming from. Oi, can you feel what your vines feel? Aur asked, and at her confirmation, a plan started to form in his head. And how long are you able to make them? About 200 meters, give or take. That should be enough to cover the building. Alright, listen up, this is how we're doing things. Katsuki said, looking at his teammate. First, before we enter, use your vines to disarm as many traps as possible. We don't necessarily need to take out all of them, just most. Then, he brought his hands up, mimicking people walking. Even if they have a bunch of traps everywhere, they're both smart enough to send someone out to scout out just in case. And that's most likely going to be glasses. So, while you head to the bomb to distract Ponytail and capture it if you can, I deal with him. Abara nodded. This plan made sense so far. However, there was one small problem. And what do we do if he runs into me before he runs into you? Katsuki grunted, thinking for a little bit, before snapping his fingers. He won't. I'm too loud to ignore, so when he hears my explosions coming closer, he'll probably head for me. Very well, but are you certain you'll be able to keep up with him? She asked. Katsuki just grunted and, of course I will. And that didn't bode well with her. She knew Katsuki was a very talented fighter, but she wanted to be certain of their victory. How about this? In case something goes wrong, shoot 3 small blasts directly at the ground. My vines will be able to pick them up, and I'll be able to use them to help you out. Fine, but don't expect it. Our time is almost over. What are we doing against Ponytail? He asked, to which Abara simply smiled. If our plans goes well, we'll both be able to be there against her. And I frankly don't believe she will be able to deal with the two of us at the same time. Katsuki grunted, but before he could speak up, All Might called out the start of the match. He sighed. He'd just trust her to deal with her until he was done. Fine. Come on then, let's get to work. Dash 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 dash. Iida ran around the 4th floor, listening to Yaoyorozu as she told him about the state of the traps. So far, only some of the ones on the 1st floor had been triggered, which made sense. The match had just begun after all. He reached the staircase, and carefully dodged all the traps laid there. However, before he could continue onwards, he suddenly heard a sound coming from his headpiece. What? They can't have possibly cleared this many so fast. He heard his teammate mumble, and at his inquiry, she explained. They've already cleared every trap on the 1st floor, and have cleared some on all the other ones. It's almost like, suddenly, she stopped before calling out, Iida, look out for Shiozaki's vines. She's most likely preemptively triggering the traps with them. He gave her an affirmative, before continuing on towards the next staircase. However, he suddenly heard a bunch of explosions coming from the floor he was on, and saw vines crawling all over the roof. This was bad. Yaoyorozu, Bakugo and Shiozaki have already made it to the 3rd floor and are approaching. I'll head out and see where they are. If both are together, I'll retreat to regroup, but if it's only one of them, I'll engage. Got it. Just be careful. Then, he activated his quirk, time almost stopping around him as he picked out his positions, and in the next second, he was already at the end of the hall, staring Bakugo down. He quickly gave his teammate an update, before turning towards his opponent and putting on his best villain act. So it seems you have found our base, hero. Although, it matters not. Prepare to be defeated in the name of evil. Well, it wasn't exactly a good villain act, but he was trying. Okay. Dude, what the? He heard his opponent mumble, before he launched himself at Iida, right arm drawn back. Iida saw that, and quickly went to his opponent's left, expecting a punch. However, it was just a feint, and Bakugo shot an explosion from his left palm, stopping his momentum, and hitting Iida, sending him a little back. He didn't let up the pressure though, closing in on his opponent, to try and hit him again, when he suddenly felt a sharp pain from his back. He created some smaller explosions, using them to flip in the air, and noticed Iida there, palm outstretched where he had hit him, before once again disappearing. This time, Katsuki felt the hit connect with his stomach, but that didn't deter him. Izuku hit way harder, so, instead, he used his hand to shoot himself forward, kneeing the space Iida was a second ago. But he had once again disappeared, this time, standing at the end of the hall. Why didn't he try to attack again? He wondered, but it didn't matter much. Using his explosions to launch himself at his opponent, Katsuki came in and drop-kicked him, which Iida blocked. Why didn't he use projection to dodge? He definitely could have. Or could he? Oh, I see how it is. Katsuki thought, launching himself up and starting to use his explosions to attack the tall boy. You can't use your quirk back-to-back a lot, glasses. He taunted, using an explosion on his opponent's torso. Then, he tried to follow it up with a high kick to his head, but at that time Iida disappeared again. 15 seconds. Katsuki thought, feeling Iida kick him over the back of the head. There's a 15-second interval between each projection barrage. He grounded himself, getting as low as possible to keep his balance. But I still don't know how many he can chain together, he thought, feeling a hit land on his back. He didn't get launched though, and instead tried to counter, to no avail, as Iida was already behind him, axe kicking him on the back of the head. Katsuki, having somewhat expected that, rolled with the hit and created a giant blast behind himself, creating a smoke screen as he did. He waited, anticipating another hit to come, and yet it didn't. He didn't let his guard down though, looking at the smoke to get a glimpse at his opponent. And 12 seconds later, Iida ran out of the smoke, before disappearing again. And at that moment, Katsuki figured it out. In the second he turned around, and wouldn't you know, Iida was there, ready to hit him. You should really try hitting from other angles, he called out, before creating two massive explosions, knocking both himself and Iida back and covering the entire area in smoke. Then, his calm flared to life, Shiozaki on the other end. Bakugo, are you all right? She asked, a slight nervousness in her voice. I heard that explosion from 2 floors above you. I'm fine, he called out, before turning to look at the smoke. I figured out Glass's weakness. He can't use projection where he can't see, and he can only use it thrice before he has to recharge. He tried to listen for anything that would give him a hint of where his opponent was, but there was no sound. Shit, I think he left me. I'm heading to the 5th floor, so don't do anything stupid, he called out and, without even waiting for a response, he blasted off to where the staircase was. No way in hell was he going to let his team lose. Dash 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 dash. Abara felt nervous, to say the least. She had disarmed all the traps on her way to the bomb that she felt, and yet she had this awful feeling she was walking right into one. And with the way her vines were spread all around the building, she didn't have nearly as much firepower as she normally did. Well, no matter, it was now or never. She walked into the large room where she had felt the bomb was and looked around. It was a spacious, almost empty room, with 2 pillars near its middle. Her vines were crawling all over the walls, feeling for anything that could be troublesome. But there was something she couldn't understand. Why was she alone in the room? That's when she felt something from the vines right above the door frame, just the slightest graze of what felt like an arm. She didn't give it a second thought, turning around just in time to see Yaoyorozu jump down at her, swinging a bow staff at her. Abara didn't move from her position though, using her few free vines to grab the staff, making her opponent lose her balance. That didn't stop her though, instead using a grappling hook she had made to try and launch herself at the vine-haired girl, trying to take her down with her momentum. Abara sidestepped the attack, using her vines to pull herself, before wrapping some around her arms, similarly to how one would wrap tape around their knuckles. I see you believe you stand on the same ground as me, she said, slowly circling around so that she was facing the bomb, her back to the exit. Then, remembering what Bakugo warned her about, she did something that could backfire on her. Engaging on her opponent to keep her attention on her, Abara called back all the vines around the room, bringing them back near the entrance. And then, she brought them all into the doorway, completely blocking off the entrance with them. And that's when Yaoyorozu finally noticed, too busy trying not to lose to Abara, that she was trapped with her. But I believe this will prove to you, Abara continued on, before throwing a punch at the other girl's stomach, which she was able to block with her. It didn't matter though, as the vines she had wrapped around her hands started crawling over it, before quickly reaching her arms, wrapping around them as well. Abara used this leverage to throw her opponent over her back, so that she was now the one closer to the bomb. You simply stand no chance. She finished. However, what she wasn't expecting was for her opponent to simply chuckle, before throwing something at her. Abara didn't even bat an eye, catching it before it could reach her. Looking at it, she saw a Matryoshka doll. She mumbled, still looking at it, and that was a mistake. The doll exploded in a bright flash of light, releasing some sort of gas that quickly ate away at the vines wrapped around her arm. Too dazed to realize what was happening, she didn't notice her opponent quickly closing the distance between them, throwing another one of the dolls at her. Abara's vines instinctively batted it away, yet she herself couldn't do much against Yaoyorozu's hit to her stomach. She fell backwards, trying to roll into a stance again, but her opponent followed her down, starting to wrap her in something, and she was back in that room again, the man with the scar on his forehead standing over her, doing something to her. She was bound down to the table, so no matter how much she tried, she wouldn't be able to get out. And worse, she couldn't hear her sister. She panicked, thrashing around as much as possible, her vines trying to reach out for anything that could help her out. But he had done something to her, and she was helpless, helpless, helpless. Nay, Viney, damn it Shiozaki, answer. She suddenly heard, bringing her out of that nightmare she was trapped in. Looking around, she noticed the room was in ruins, the pillars knocked over, half of the walls caved in, parts of the roof had fallen to the floor. Her vines were all over the room, some of them wrapped around her in something along the lines of a blanket, and a lot of them wrapped around a passed-out Yaoyorozu. Damn it all, she had lost control again. Breathe in, count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe out, count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She was all right. He couldn't hurt her anymore. She hadn't seen him since she was 8, she was safe. She hadn't seen Yuri since she was 8 either. No, don't think about that. Think about Shiozaki. Ah, her teammate was calling out to her. She had to answer. I'm fine, Bakugo, she said, a slight tremble in her voice. She heard a sigh of relief from her teammate before he started speaking. It sounded like someone unleashed Armageddon up there. What the hell happened? He asked, the sound of explosions as background noise. Abara, deciding she was too drained to deal with his profanity, simply answered. I was able to capture Yaoyorozu, but I used too much force. I'll capture the bomb now. Her teammate didn't say anything at first, probably not believing her story, before simply sighing. Fine. Then, the line cut off. Abara stood up on shaky legs, before walking to the end of the room where the fallen-over bomb was, and touching it. Yet nothing happened. Were the cameras in the room busted? She looked around, and no, they were still there, even if barely. So, what was going on? What's taking you so long? Her teammate asked, and Abara's brow furrowed. I captured it. I don't know why All Might hasn't dubbed us the winners yet. Unless, suddenly, an idea came to mind, and she sent out her vines to scan the 5th and 6th floors again. And wouldn't you know it, in the farthest room of the 6th floor, she felt another bomb, with Iida standing in the same room as it. Bakugo, this bomb was a fake. What? Damn it, where's the real one? I'm heading straight for it. At his question, she gave him the location, and she heard his explosions intensifying. Then, suddenly, All Might's voice rang out in their earpieces. 2 minutes remaining. You better hurry, heroes. This was bad. She couldn't reach the room in time to help her teammate, unless she stopped holding back, but she had to find a way to help him. Suddenly, she remembered what they had told each other at the start of the match. Bakugo, remember, 3 blasts. I know, now let me work, she sighed, then looked at her passed-out opponent. She couldn't just leave her in this crumbling room. So, she used her vines to gently take her down to the street through the window, hoping she wouldn't be too hurt. And with that, she ran off to her desired location. She really hoped this would work. Dash 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 dash. When Katsuki got to the room in which Obara had said the bomb was, there was only a minute left, by his count. Taking a quick look around, he saw the bomb at the end of the room, with Iida next to it. He jumped up, and did something that would probably hurt his arms for the rest of the day. He removed the smaller pin of his right gauntlet, a giant blast erupting from them, though not what they were fully capable of. The blast sent him directly at the bomb, legs first, hoping he was moving fast enough for glasses to not react, but he wasn't. Instead of colliding with the bomb as was his plan, he collided with the wall, the taller teen now standing at the other end of the room, the bomb next to him again. 1. That didn't deter him though, sending himself flying towards his opponent again. However, Iida once again sent himself to the other end of the room. 2. Katsuki grabbed one of the grenades off of his belt, chucking them at his opponent, but he once again dodged. 3. And this was the moment of truth. He sent 3 small blasts directly at the floor, while jumping up towards the bomb. And then, everything crumbled. The floor broke down, with Obara, riding a wave of her vines, coming out of it. He expected this was the end of it. Iida was out of projection charges. Right. All of a sudden, their opponent was in the air, the bomb in his grasp as he tried to dodge the vines reaching up for him. Think, Katsuki, think. He blasted himself upwards, and then, an idea came to his mind. Half a gauntlet wasn't fast enough. But a full one. He pulled the big pin on his left gauntlet, aiming the blast away from his teammate, and launched himself directly at the other boy. Iida saw him coming, but he was just too fast, and so Katsuki connected with him, right shoulder first, knocking him away from the bomb. And at that moment, Obara used her vines to grab hold of the bomb, before bringing it down to her, so she could officially capture it. Hero team wins. Their teacher called out, and Katsuki cackled like a madman, almost delirious from the pain in his left arm. However, he suddenly felt a bunch of vines grab him as he was falling, bringing him down on the floor. Or well, 2 floors down actually, since the 6th floor was actively falling apart. Damn, they caused a lot of damage to this building. He looked at his teammate, who had sat him down next to her and, well, she didn't exactly look thrilled with him. What were you thinking? Do you know how much you could have hurt yourself there at the end? She said, looking at his left shoulder. He tried to brush her off, but a sharp pain from it stopped him in his tracks. Yeah, okay, he definitely dislocated it there at the end. Sigh here, let me get that for you, she suddenly said, before grabbing his left arm and snapping it back into place. Where'd you learn to do that? He asked, rolling his shoulders. While they still hurt, this was definitely much better. Obara frowned for a moment, lost in thought, before mumbling something out. What was that? Didn't hear ya. I said it doesn't matter. Then, she grabbed hold of the banged up Iida, who was still wrapped up in her vines, asking him if he was okay. At his affirmative, they started to walk away, her helping him along the way. Katsuki, confused at her sudden cold demeanor, stood there for a moment, before simply shrugging. If she didn't talk about it, that was fine. He respected her, so he wouldn't bother her. Dash 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 dash. When the teams came back to the control room, they were greeted by shocked expressions from most of their classmates, apathy from Todoroki and very concerned looks from Izuku and All Might. Before their classmates could explode into questions though, All Might cut in. Are you quite all right, young heroes? Obara had expected him to look at the others, the ones who had actually gotten physically injured, but instead, his attention was mostly on her. Oh, he had noticed her panic attack. Not good. Yes, I'm fine. Just twisted my ankle at the end. Thank you for the concern, sir, but I am fine as well. Just a few cuts and bruises, nothing I can't handle. I'm all right, Obara said, the last of the students to answer. Judging by All Might's reaction, he didn't really believe her though, yet he let it slide. Alright, now, could someone from the hero team tell me, what was your biggest mistake? Abara looked away, embarrassed at the question. Oh, I don't know, maybe the fact they destroyed half of the building. Or maybe the fact that she lost control and hurt someone again. We didn't care much for collateral damage, which would have caused a ton of other problems in other scenarios. Surprisingly, Bakugo spoke up, to which she looked at him in shock. He looked at her, annoyance clear on his face. What? I'm a delinquent, not a criminal. I do want to be a hero, damn it. Sorry, she mumbled out, to which the blonde only grunted in answer. Then, she turned back to their teacher, bowing slightly. I lost control of my quirk, and caused unnecessary damage to both the building and Yaoyorozu. I promise, it will not happen again. Their teacher nodded, happy with their answers, before starting to speak about something Abara didn't really listen to. Instead, she walked to the back of the room, sitting down and closing her eyes, thinking about what had happened. She thought she could control herself now. Ever since her parents came into her life, everything was so much easier. And yet, that man's shadow still hung over her, seeping into every bit of her life. To her very biology. However, before she could get too lost in thought, she heard someone slide down the wall next to her. Opening her eyes, she saw it was Izuku, a gentle smile on his face. Are you all right, Shiozaki? He quietly asked, to which Abara lightly nodded. I'm fine. Please don't worry about me. He seemed to contemplate something for a second, before speaking up again. Are you sure? You can tell me if something is bothering you, okay? I'll listen. And suddenly, she felt torn. She wanted so badly to tell someone, anyone, about what she had experienced. She needed someone to help her see the brightness again. But she couldn't do it. She couldn't do this to someone who she barely knew. So instead, she forced herself to smile, once again reassuring him she was all right. Izuku, while at first looking as if he wanted to continue speaking about that, dropped the topic, instead starting to speak about how cool she was during the match. Abara listened to him a gush, and slowly, unconsciously, her fake smile turned real one, a warmth spreading through her chest. Even if she couldn't bring herself to force him into the darkness with her, he at least made everything seem brighter. Chapter text. Good work today, students. All Might called out, looking towards the class. I say that was a very productive first lesson. Now then, watch how a hero makes his exit. And with that, All Might ran down the tunnel that leads to the main school building. Izuku deadpanned at his mentor's retreating form. His time for the day was probably almost up, so that meant he was most likely free for the rest of the day. Taking out his phone, Izuku looked around, before sending a text to the hero. Me, hey, Mr. Yagi, are you free for the rest of the day? I need to talk to you about something that I think is related to One for All. Urgently. He waited a few seconds, not expecting an answer so soon, but to his surprise, his teacher answered almost immediately. Mr. Yagi, yes, I'm free. I wanted to talk to you about the quirk you mentioned after the entrance exam, anyway. I think I've figured out what it is. Me, yeah, good. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the quirk. It activated a few more times today. Where can I find you? Mr. Yagi. My office is on the 4th floor. Just swing by after classes, I'll be there. Shooting him a quick affirmative, Izuku looked around again, just in case. While his texts weren't necessarily too suspicious, he just wanted to be sure. Okatsu was off to the side, speaking with Abara about something, and Katsuki. Wait, where was Katsuki? Suddenly, he felt an arm wrap around his shoulders, and he felt a bit of dread building up within him. Looking at where it came from, he saw his best friend standing there, a questioning look on his face. Shit, had he been caught? So, I was wondering, when do you want our next match to be? I'm busy this Saturday, so should we do it after school someday? Oh, it was just about their practices. Izuku breathed a silent sigh of relief. Thankfully, he hadn't seen the texts. Realizing that his friend was still waiting for a response, Izuku quickly thought about it, before shrugging. Maybe we should do it on Friday after class. We're apparently having rescue training almost the whole day, so we should be able to practice after them. He answered. His friend nodded in agreement, although the look on his face remained. Then, he pulled Izuku even closer, looking him straight in the eye. You've been acting weirder lately. And your quirk seemed to have gotten stronger overnight. Katsuki's staring intensified then, as if trying to burn a hole in his head with his gaze. You're not hiding something from me, right? He whispered, and Izuku felt his stomach drop. He wasn't hiding his new quirk well enough, if Katsuki suspected something was wrong. Quickly putting a smile on his face, Izuku chuckled, trying to hide his nervousness. Why would I hide anything from you? He said, pushing back Katsuki lightly, hoping his heart wouldn't jump out of his chest. You're my best friend Kachan, I trust you. It hurt, lying to him like that, but he had to do it. All Might trusted him to keep one for all secret, so he had to. His friend looked at him for a few more moments, before letting him go, a cocky smirk appearing on his face. If you say so, I guess I just have to go even harder on you now that your quirk is stronger than before. Izuku sighed again. Thank the gods he trusted him. Still, he wanted to tell Katsuki the truth. Maybe he'll ask All Might if he's allowed to today. Yeah, well, you won't be beating me, Kachan. Now come on, let's get going. And with that he walked off, heading to where Abara and Yuta were waiting for them. However, because of that, he didn't notice Katsuki's smirk dropping and a wary look appearing on his face. At that moment, the blonde-haired boy had a few thoughts running through his head. What the hell is One for All? And who the hell is this Yagi person? He looked towards his best friend, the person who knew everything about him, the person he trusted with his life, and scowled. Why are you hiding shit from me, Izuku? Dash 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 dash. When the time to go home finally arrived for them to go home, Izuku excused himself by saying he needed to speak to one of the teachers. Abara and Yuta seemed to accept that immediately, although Katsuki got that weird look on his face again, before grunting something and walking away. Izuku found that weird but just shrugged it off. Finally finding All Might's office, Izuku knocked on the door. There was a little bit of shuffling, before he heard a, "Come in," from the other side of the door. Entering, Izuku noticed All Might in his skinny form sitting on a couch, a cup of tea and a notebook on the table in front of him. When he saw him, Yagi smiled, gesturing to the other couch. Make yourself at home, young Midoriya. Izuku smiled back at the man, putting his backpack on the floor next to the couch, before sitting down on it. Tea? All Might asked, to which Izuku simply shook his head. All right, now then, what did you wish to speak about? Izuku took a deep breath. He had thought a bit more about what the voice could have been after his talk with Abara, but he still had no idea what it was. He just hoped All Might didn't think he was insane. And with that, he opened his mouth ready to speak, when suddenly, he heard a different voice, this one, female. I feel so bad for Toshi and Izuku. Toshi had never been able to tap into us, so they have almost no context ab. Suddenly, the voice cut off again, and Izuku looked around. Alright, yeah, this was weird. It was one thing for the one voice to know about him, but a second one suddenly appearing, and speaking about a Toshi. Toshinori. That was All Might's name that the voice said. And she sounded as if she had known him for a long time. Young Midoriya, are you alright? He suddenly heard his teacher speak up, which broke him out of his train of thought. It looked like you were about to say something, but cut yourself off. Izuku nodded, saying he was fine, before realizing he needed to speak. Oh well, here goes nothing. So, I wanted to talk about the danger-sensing quirk I apparently awakened first, since it activated a couple more times today, but there's some more pressing matters now. So, I heard this voice during the battle trial today, that said something about liking me, as if it had been watching me for some time now, which was confusing, since it was an obviously adult male voice, yet it sounded like no one I know, so I thought it was a quirk of some kind, but I know the quirks of everyone in the staff, except Mr. Aizawa, and none of them match, so it has to be something else and mutter mutter mutter. Quote. Young Midoriya, calm down. The hero called out, snapping Izuku out of his thoughts. I could barely understand you. Take a deep breath and calm down. We'll figure this out together, alright? Izuku nodded, feeling reassured. And with a deep breath, he started explaining again. I heard a voice during the battle trial that I have never heard before. The speaker, however, sounded as if he had already been watching me for a while. Seeing All Might's nod, Izuku continued on with his explanation. I thought it had to be a telepathy quirk of some kind, but none of the staff have one, as far as I know. So I had no idea what it was. Then he looked at Yagi, before asking a question. Mr. Yagi, was the one for all holder before you female? The pro looked confused for a second, coughing out a little blood, but he nodded. Yes, her name was Nana Shimura. Why do you ask? More and more pieces were falling into place, and the picture they were creating was creating more questions than answers. Alright, final question. He just hoped the hero didn't have a heart attack. Did she call you Toshi by chance? He asked, and immediately regretted it. All Might started hacking out blood, and Izuku panicked, handing him a tissue. It took a couple of seconds for the coughing to finally stop, and when it did, the pro looked at him, pure confusion on his face. How did you know that? He asked, and Izuku grimaced. Even though this pretty much confirmed his theory, he didn't feel closer to understanding what the hell was going on. So, he just decided to focus on the present, starting to explain what happened to Yagi. Just now, I heard another voice. This one was female, and it mentioned both me and you, calling you Toshi. She said something about you never being able to tap into them, whatever that meant, before suddenly being cut off. And that leads me to what I think is happening. Izuku looked the pro dead in the eyes, and noticed a spark of understanding in his eyes. I think I'm hearing the past holders of One for All. All Might sighed, although he didn't look surprised. That actually lines up with what I was thinking about the danger-sensing quirk. At Izuku's questioning gaze, All Might opened up the notebook near the middle, where there was a picture of a white-haired man with a scar on his face and what looked like his biography. This here is Hikage Shinomori, the fourth holder of One for All. Then, he pointed towards where his quirk was explained, and Izuku's eyes widened. And his quirk was Danger Sense. It worked the same way the quirk you've awakened works, so it has led me to believe that you have started awakening the quirks of the previous holders. Izuku stood there, frozen in shock. Not only was he starting to hear their spirits, he was also going to awaken their quirks. He didn't even have a handle on 2 quirks. How was he supposed to handle 8? He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. It was fine, maybe he wouldn't awaken all of them. Plus, he had All Might here to help. They could do this. So, do you have an idea about when I'll unlock the other quirks? Izuku asked, hoping that All Might had found something in his research. However, the hero simply shook to his dismay. Oh, yeah, I don't know what I was expecting. This probably hasn't happened before. And now, I have to deal with having to reign 8 quirks. Yeah, this was fine, this is fine. Don't worry, young Midoriya. In my research I found the quirks of all holders, except the 3rd and 2nd. We can figure out how they work, so that you won't be going in blind. He reached over and put his hand on the teen's shoulder, smiling gently at him. We'll get through this, together. And almost immediately, all of Izuku's worries melted away. There were a lot of uncertainties, but it was fine. They could do this. ... Half an hour later, after a discussion on the quirks of the previous holders, Izuku finally left to go home. All Might watched him leave, his smile slowly fading away as he looked at the notebook on the table. There was something else he had found out about Shinomori, something that deeply disturbed him. The man had died at the age of 40. Of old age, and he had an idea why that was, and why it didn't happen to him. And it had to do with him being originally quirkless. However, young Midoriya, I'm sorry, he muttered out to the empty room, tears slowly streaking from his eyes. I'm so sorry, young Midoriya. Dash 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 dash. This day was really boring. Bar the media pestering him at the gates, there really wasn't that much going on. Well, there was the whole class rep thing, but he had absolutely no desire to deal with that, so he just voted for Katsuki for the hell of it. In the end, Iida and Yaoyorozu were chosen, so it didn't even matter. Now, he was eating his lunch with his friends, listening to them talk while writing down some notes on danger sense in his notebook. It was a very, very useful quirk, although the head pain was annoying, to say the least. Still, though, he would take it over losing his new quirk. He just had to get used to, He groaned, feeling danger sense activate. Wait, what? Are you all right, Mido? Before Abara could finish her question, an alarm started ringing. The four looked around, confused at what was going on, when the cafeteria exploded in an uproar, students panicking and running around like insane. Yuta reached out for a third-year student, asking him what was going on. This is a Tier 3 alarm. The third year explained, before looking around. It means someone broke in. This has never happened before. And with that, he ran off. Abara sighed, looking back towards the group and noticing that. Where is Midoriya? Dash 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 dash. Izuku knew that it was probably a bad idea to walk directly to where danger sense told him the threat was, but he was never the smartest when it came to things like this. Still, though, it was weird that it was leading him towards the teacher's room. Getting close to it, he started walking lighter, trying to look in through the gap in the door. However, he didn't see anything, so thinking quickly, he pulled out his phone and took a picture of the inside. Looking at it, he saw a man, maybe in his early 20s, surrounded by a bunch of purple smoke. He was shifting through the documents on the table, although for some reason he wasn't touching them with all 5 of his fingers. However, the weirdest thing about him had to be the mask he was wearing. It was hand-shaped, and it only allowed for his eyes to poke out. Which, he now noticed, were looking directly at the camera. He barely had a second to think as danger sense activated again, and he jumped up, powered by lightning god, grabbing the vent above him and holding on for dear life. The villain, because that's what he had to be, looked around. Izuku really hoped he didn't look up. And, his wish was granted. The man simply shrugged before walking back into the room. Izuku finally breathed in, not realizing he had been holding his breath the entire time, then waited a few more seconds before dropping. He tried to listen for any noises from behind the closed door, but there was nothing. And so, deciding to do the stupidest thing he could, he entered the room. And found it completely empty. That didn't make sense. How did the villain just disappear? He walked out, wondering where he could possibly be, when the alarms finally stopped, and he got a text on his phone. Looking at it, he saw it was from Abara, asking him where he had disappeared. He texted her that he had just gone to the teacher's room to find a teacher, and she seemed to believe it, so she let it go, simply telling him to get to the classroom soon. Izuku gave an affirmative, but he didn't head there immediately. No, he had to speak with the principal about this. Dash 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 dash. When he returned to the bar, the first thing he noticed was that it wasn't empty. There was a human-looking thing there, one of its arms covered. It didn't have eyes, instead having branches growing out of its eye sockets, and its skin was pure white with black highlights over it. Before he could walk over and interrogate it, the monitor in the back of the room flared to life, Sensei's voice coming through. "Welcome back, young Tamura," the voice said, and Shigaraki immediately turned his attention to it, ignoring the intruder. "I assume your mission was a success." Tamura immediately replied, not wanting to disappoint his mentor. Of course, sensei. I memorized the lesson plans for the well, so we should be able to start our plan soon enough. He said, before explaining the schedule. This Friday, the hero students of Class 1A will have rescue training in a specialized facility with Eraserhead, Star Rage, 13 and All Might. We should be able to strike then. Wonderful. The voice answered, before starting to speak again. You may have noticed someone new in the bar. This is Hanami. At that, the thing turned to look at him. It was hard to tell when it didn't have eyes, but it was facing him now. She'll be your ally during the raid. Think of her as an intelligent version of the Nomu you'll use to kill All Might. Shigaraki nodded. More party members would always be appreciated, especially considering they would have to deal with 3 raid bosses at once. He walked over to her, before starting to speak. I'm expecting you to be useful, understand? He said, to which she simply nodded. Tamura huffed, before asking another question. What quirks do you have? Or do you have the same combination of shock absorption and regeneration like Nomu? Denoitnum uoi neuteraneger tot DNA, EFILTNALPLLADNAYNA fo lordnok u ferriscryok ym, she answered, and Tamura raised a brow. Before he could ask what the hell that was, the voice of Sensei spoke up again. Sadly, Hanami is unable to communicate like a normal human as all of her speech is reversed. However, her quirks are. The voice, however, was cut off by Tamura clicking his tongue. That won't do, he said, before reaching out and grabbing Hanami by the throat, faster than she could react. Nothing seemed to happen for a second, before he let go, and commanded, now, speak. What did you? She asked, and was shocked that her words actually came out right. Tamura nodded, clearly satisfied with himself, and heard a laugh coming from the TV. I suppose that works as well. After all, communication is key while working with someone. Your quirk is truly something special, Tamura. Sensei said, then he continued on. Her quirks are plant manipulation and super regeneration. I believe she would be a great ally for you. Although, and with that, the voice of his mentor trailed off, before continuing on again. Tamura, do you know if an Abara Shiozaki and an Izuku Midoriya are part of Class 1A? Tamura thought about it for a minute. He had looked through the class register to see the class, quirks, and those names were definitely familiar. Yes, Sensei. They are, he said, not even thinking for a moment about why Sensei knew those names. It didn't matter. A girl with vines for hair and a boy with an electricity quirk. There was silence for a moment, before his teacher laughed. That was confusing. Eventually, though, he stopped. Ah, fate truly is a hilarious thing, he said, and Tamura had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, but he didn't question it. In that case, I'll allow you to use 2 more intelligent Nomu. I want you to capture those 2 and bring them to me. I understand, Sensei. And with that, the TV turned off, and Shigaraki was left standing in the bar, the 2 other occupants looking at him. Kurogiri, get the thugs ready for Friday. We have a raid to do. It will be done, Tamura Shigaraki. And with that, the mist man disappeared. Tamura started to walk away, before remembering about his ally still standing at the bar. Welcome to the team, Hanami. Wait for Kurogiri to come back, he'll show you where you can stay. And with that, he disappeared to the back room. After all, there was a new season starting in Diablo today, and he wanted to play. Dash 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 dash. The days after UA was broken into were fairly calm, all things considered. Izuku had spoken with the principal about the man in the teacher's room, but since nothing was stolen, they couldn't pinpoint exactly why he was there. Nor could they figure out who he was. Still, though, classes were fun. He had been practicing Danger Sense after school and Lightning God during Quirk Theory and Hero Basics. He still couldn't find a way to control one for all, though. He was missing something. He felt like he was close to a breakthrough on how to use it, but still, nothing. At that moment, Ms. Tsukumo came in, smiling at the class. All right, children, as you all may know, Today we're having specialized rescue training at an off-campus facility. Put on your costumes, or go with your gym uniforms, and meet me down at the entrance." And with that, their teacher walked out, leaving the students to grab their cases. Izuku looked back at Obara and Yuta, smiling lightly. "What do you guys think about the rescue training?" he asked, wondering what his friends thought. He had always wanted to be a more fight-focused hero, since he believed that to save someone, he had to win a fight, and vice versa, but knowing rescue procedures would definitely be incredibly useful. Yuta was the first to answer, grabbing his suitcase as he did. "Since I plan on being an underground hero, this won't be too useful to me, but it will still be nice to know." Then he turned towards Obara, who was looking forward, an icy determination in her gaze. Realizing that she was being looked at, Obara smiled lightly, before answering. "I'll most likely be a rescue hero in the future. Saving people is the reason I decided to become a hero in the first place. And being able to do it now will greatly help me." Then, that icy determination appeared again, and she muttered something along the lines of how she had to save people. Izuku decided not to question her. After all, she wanted to save people and that's all that mattered. Dash 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 dash. As they were riding on the bus, Izuku was trying to ignore the way Katsuki was staring at him. Since the first heroics class he had gotten more closed off, he supposed. As if he didn't trust him as much. And he started to suspect he knew why. Katsuki didn't believe him, did he? He's suspecting he's hiding something, because he is. But in the entire panic of realizing he was hearing the past one for all holders and awakening one of their quirks, he completely forgot to ask if he could tell him. He should really ask soon. However, before he could dig himself deeper in this hole, he heard a voice calling out to him. "Midoriya, I'm normally a person who speaks what's on their mind, Kiro." He looked to his left, where his classmate with the frog quirk, Asui, was sitting. "Ah, well, what is it, Asui?" he asked, curious. "Call me Sue," she said, before starting to speak again. "Are you related to Raijin?" At that, Izuku choked, shocked about the question. The girl didn't seem to care though, as she continued her train of thought. "You have similar quirks and your hero costume is almost identical to his, just different colors. However, you look nothing like each other, so I was wondering." Izuku took a deep breath, calming down, before replying. "No, I'm not related to Raijin. Although, he knows my mother from somewhere. I actually haven't asked," he said, thinking about how weird it was that a random nurse knew the previous #1 hero. "He helped me train for the entrance exam and I respect him a lot. That's why I've styled my costume to match his," he answered, which seemed to be enough for Asui for now. "Man, that's so cool." A red-haired boy, Kirishima, suddenly spoke up. "I wish I could meet my idol in real life. If I see Crimson Riot, I'd probably die happy," he said, and Izuku chuckled. "Believe me, idols lose their spark when they're hired to beat you up until you know how to use a bow staff," he said, before continuing on. "I almost wish I had your quirk. Maybe then I wouldn't have had so many bruises back then," he finished, rubbing the back of his neck. "Nah man, your quirk is cool as hell. And flashy to boot." Then, he hardened his arm, looking at it with a mix of pride and sadness. "I love my quirk, but there's no competition when I'm supposed to compare myself to you or Todoroki or Bakugo." Izuku didn't let that self-pity slide though. "That's not true. While it's not as flashy as ours, yours could be just as, if not more useful than them. It's all about practice," he said, a few sparks flying between his fingers. Kirishima smiled at that, hardening his other arm and bringing them together. "Hell yeah, quiet down," Aizawa called out from the front, and when the class did, they noticed that the bus had stopped moving. "We've arrived. Get off the bus," he added on, getting off himself, Tsukumo following after him. The class quickly got up and followed the teacher, and Izuku noticed that Katsuki was purposefully getting away from him. That hurt. He followed behind his teachers, noticing the giant dome they were heading towards. And when they entered, he was simply star-struck at the facility. It was massive, and there were multiple zones for all kinds of disaster areas. There was a shipwreck, a landslide, a ruined city and many others. And at the front, next to his teachers, he saw the space hero, 13. However, before he could gush about how cool that was, he suddenly felt a pang in his head. Before another, and then another, and so it continued, causing him to panic. Why now? Why was danger sense activating so much? He started looking around, trying to see what could have been triggering it, but he couldn't see anything. Until he noticed something down at the central plaza, where purple mist was appearing, the same purple mist that he saw in his photo of the villain. He quickly ran up to the front, getting the attention of his teachers. "What's wrong, Midoriya?" Ms. Tsukumo asked, at which Izuku simply pointed towards the central plaza. She and Aizawa followed his gaze, their eyes widening as people started pouring out of the mist. "Is that the same mist that was with the person who broke in the other day?" she asked her fellow teacher, to which Aizawa simply nodded. What's going on?" Kirishima asked, looking at all the people that suddenly appeared. "As this part of the exercise?" he finished, and Aizawa shook his head, putting on a pair of yellow goggles for his eyes. Izuku would have fanboyed like crazy under normal circumstances, since holy shit, Aizawa was a racerhead, but he had more important things to worry about. "Those are real villains," their teacher said, and Izuku felt like today would be an awful day. Chapter text. 13. Protect the kids and evacuate. "A racer, with me," Yuki said, looking out at the sea of villains in front of them. Garuda floated around her, mirroring the woman's emotions. Aizawa nodded at this, grabbing hold of his scarf, but before they could jump down, they were cut off by Izuku's voice. Wait, there's at least 100 people down there. Are you sure it would be the best idea to try and fight them all?" At that, Yuki looked back at him, a confident smile on her face. "You don't need to worry about us, Midoriya," she said, patting the boy on the shoulder. "We're pro-heroes. These are the types of situations we're trained for. Now, get out of here. Aizawa and I will be fine." And with that, their teachers jumped down to the plaza, immediately taking down some of the villains closest to them. "You heard your teachers, we need to move," 13 said, leading the students back to the entrance. However, before they could get to it, the mist man who had teleported the villains appeared before them. "Good afternoon, students. I'm afraid I can't allow you to escape. We are the League of the Cursed, and we are here to kill All Might. Do any of you happen to know where he is?" the mist man said, but the class didn't respond. Instead, the capsules on 13's fingers opened, ready to use their quirk. However, they didn't have the chance, as Katsuki and Kirishima jumped in, trying to attack the villain. Said villain sighed, no visible damage done to him, before talking again. "I'm afraid that just won't do." Then, Izuku felt danger sense activate, so he turned to the friend closest to him, Shiozaki, and tried to pull the two of them away. However, he was just barely not fast enough, and with a call of, "Now, scatter," the mist enveloped them, and suddenly he felt himself falling. Dash 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 dash. The first thing Izuku realized was that he wasn't near the entrance anymore. No, instead he was in what looked like one of the disaster zones, the mountain zone specifically. The second thing he noticed was that Abara was also there with him, a couple of meters away from him, looking around in confusion. "Shiozaki, over here," he called out, and she turned around, looking at him in relief. She ran over, smiling lightly at him, and Izuku felt his cheeks warm lightly at her look. "I'm glad to see I'm not alone during these trying times," she said, and Izuku nodded. However, before he could speak up, they suddenly heard laughter from behind them, and Izuku felt danger sense ping him just in time for him to dodge a projectile, pulling Abara with him out of the danger zone. The two looked at where it came from and noticed around 8 villains standing there, leering at the two students. "Oh, believe me, sweetheart," one of them started, chuckling darkly while looking at Abara. "You're far from alone," he finished, the group stepping forward, ready to engage with the two students. Izuku scowled, grabbing his staff and getting into a fighting stance. At the same time, Abara wrapped two bundles of vines around her arms, forming two whip-like appendages. "Look at them, acting all brave," one of the other villains, a man with a rock-like body, taunted, before charging at the two teens. He swung his fist at Izuku, trying to hit him over the head. However, the teen simply sidestepped, hitting the man on the back with all of his force, lightning god channeling through his staff to try and shock him. It didn't work perfectly, but it dazed the villain enough for Abara to wrap her whips around him and throw him back at the group. Most of them were able to dodge, except for one, who took the full force of the rockman crashing into him, knocking the two of them off of the hill they were standing on. The students didn't have the chance to celebrate their small victory though, as two of the villains started shooting projectiles at them. Abara used her vines to block the projectiles heading towards her, while Izuku dodged them, relying on danger sense to warn him about any coming from his blind side. Then, Izuku saw two villains running at him, one of them a tall, red-skinned man with 4 arms and the other one a woman with katanas sticking out of her arms. Izuku continued dodging the projectiles, ducking under the red-skinned man's punch while throwing himself to the side to avoid getting cut in half by the woman. Then, thinking fast, he circled around his opponents, making the shooters unable to hit him without the danger of taking out their allies. He saw the man close in on him, trying to hit him with his 2 right arms. Dodging to the man's left, Izuku used his staff to block the woman's blades, before kicking her in the stomach, sending her skidding to the floor. Then, he turned back his attention to the man, just in time to block his upper left arm with his right forearm and his lower right arm with his left knee. He hissed in pain, feeling bruises start forming, but couldn't focus on them, as the man used his 2 leftover arms to try and hit him. Izuku jumped back, swinging his staff in an upward arc, knocking the man on the chin. He didn't let up after that, punching the man right in the gut, before he felt danger sense ping him. Grabbing the man by the shirt, he threw him over his shoulder, using him as a meat shield to block the woman's slash. The man screamed in pain, but Izuku didn't care much, kicking the man into the woman. She, however, threw him off of her, trying to skewer Izuku with her blades. Izuku tried to dodge as best as he could, but he no longer had the man shielding him from the projectiles, so he had to dodge on 2 fronts. He parried a horizontal slash at him with his staff, weaving through a slew of projectiles. Some of them grazed him, others grazed the woman, but they mostly missed, and Izuku was really happy that these people were so bad at being villains. He continued parrying, trying to find an opening, when the woman suddenly kicked up at him. Izuku was confused, but grabbed her leg anyway, trying to make her lose her balance. However, all of a sudden, he felt a sharp pain pierce through his upper arm. Looking down, he saw a blade protruding from the woman's leg, piercing from his middle bicep all the way through his shoulder. He heard the woman laugh, before she spoke up. "Did you really think I could only grow blades from my arms? You hero students really are so stupid," she cackled, twisting the blade. Izuku grunted in pain, before grabbing the woman by her throat. "Goo," she grunted out, but Izuku didn't care. Instead, he coursed as much of Lightning God through his arm as he could, using his body as a taser. The woman screamed in pain, but the student didn't let up until he felt her go limp, slumping against him. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't have time to take a break. Feeling danger sense ping, he turned himself and the woman around, blocking the incoming volley of projectiles with her body. Then, as carefully as possible, he took the blade out of his arm, feeling it slump at his side. That was bad. He was down an arm, and it would take it at least half an hour before it fully regenerated, a luxury he didn't have. Still using the woman as a shield, he tried to think up of a plan. One set of projectiles seemed energy-based, so there wasn't much he could do about them, but the others seemed to be metallic in nature, so maybe he could destroy them while they were flying at him. That would certainly make things easier. And with the basics of a plan in his head, Izuku got ready to attack. However, suddenly, the entire area started shaking, as if it was experiencing an earthquake, lava sprouting from random parts of the ground. While he was dealing with his set of villains, Abara was locked in combat with two others. She didn't have to worry about the shooters, since her wall of vines was more than enough to block them, but the two villains in front of her were certainly annoying. One of them had some type of tiger mutation, while the other seemed to be able to bend the surrounding earth. At first, she kept her distance from them, using her whips to hit them anytime one of them tried to get too close, while dodging anytime the earthbender tried to open the ground beneath her, or blocking the stones he threw with her vines. She knew these people couldn't do much to her. She had dealt with villains far greater than them, but if she kept being reactive, she would go nowhere. So, quickly thinking up a plan, she decided to put it into motion. She stabbed some of her vines into the ground, then started stalking forward, heading directly for the villains. They seemed confused at first, before the tiger man barked out a laugh, giving his partner a sign with his hands. The earthbender nodded, before stomping down on the ground, using the earth to shoot the mutant at her. Abara started walking forward, looking at the man flying at her. 3. She felt the ground start trembling beneath her, but she didn't care. 2. The man was barely 5 meters from her now, his claws outstretched towards the ground, trembling even harder. 1. And just as the man was about to reach her, the ground split open, no doubt to try and trap her. But this didn't matter to Abara. The vines she stuck in the ground had reached to beneath her, and she used them to shoot herself up, just above the tiger man, who looked up at her in shock. Abara looked at him, a cold look on her face. Then, she shot her vines at him, wrapping them around the man and using them to propel herself at him. She crashed into the man, legs first, knocking him into the vines on the ground, which wrapped around him and captured him. She looked over at the earthbender, the same cold look in her eyes, and she saw him start sweating a little. "Good, I don't suppose you'll stand down?" she asked, starting to walk towards the man. He seemed to tremble even more, before suddenly, a look of mania appeared on his face. Abara stopped, wondering what he was doing, when she saw him pull out a syringe filled with a green liquid. She immediately recognized what it was, starting to run at the man, shooting her vines forwards, trying to capture him, but she wasn't fast enough. "See how you like me now, little hero," the man screamed, stabbing the syringe of trigger in his neck. Abara wrapped her vines around him, but it was too late, and she felt the entire area where she was start trembling. The earthquake worsened, the ground splitting in multiple places, and Abara had to use her vines to steady herself, grounding herself with them. Small sharp rocks started floating around the man, cutting himself free from the vines with them, and he looked over at Abara, an even more manic look on his face. "I'll bury you," the man screamed, sending a volley of rocks at her. Abara formed a wall of vines, blocking most of the projectiles. However, some of them were able to pierce the wall, nicking her lightly and drawing a bit of blood. She forced the wall down, once again trying to wrap her whips around the earthbender once again, but this time, they didn't even reach him, wrapping around a rock wall the man put up. Abara pulled, unearthing the wall and spun it around herself and throwing it back at the man, but he didn't seem fazed, simply punching through the giant rock. Then, he threw his hands up, making a bunch of wild gestures with them. Abara felt the ground around herself burst, hundreds of rocks of all sizes floating around her, and she immediately wrapped 4 more bundles of vines on each arm, now having 10 whips total. And just in time, as the rocks started flying directly towards her. "Whip maelstrom," she thought, swinging the whips as precisely around herself as she could, destroying any rock that got too close. She was able to do this for a while, destroying almost all the projectiles, when she suddenly felt the ground beneath herself start to heat up. She didn't even think, using the whips on her right arm to shoot herself to the side, just in time to dodge the spout of lava erupting from her previous position. "I'm the god of the earth," the man screamed, even more lava pools sprouting from all around him, and Abara felt a pang of fear. If this continued on the way it was going, he would kill everyone here, not just her. The trigger should wear off in maybe 30 seconds, but that was still enough time for this man to turn this entire zone into an active volcano. She needed to end this, and she needed to do it fast. Abara breathed in deep, unraveling her whips and bringing down the wall that blocked her from the sight of the shooters. Then, she brought most of her vines together, forming a drill-like shape with them, the tip of it sharpened as much as he could. The man seemed to notice she was preparing a big attack, so he stuck his hand up into the air, a chunk of the hill closest to them suddenly floating up. It was easily over 20 meters in diameter, and she wasn't sure if she could fully destroy it, but as long as he was focused on controlling it, he wouldn't be able to use his lava attacks. Or at least she hoped so. And finally, it was time for her to finish this. Piercing faith, she called out, shooting the vine drill at her enemy. The man cackled, shouting something incoherent, before bringing down the giant rock at her drill, the two forces clashing together. Abara held steady, putting her all into piercing the attack, her eyes flashing green for barely a second, when suddenly her vines hardened even further, gaining an almost wood-like texture. The man didn't let up though, pushing even further and further, but it wasn't enough. Soon, a crack echoed out throughout the mountain zone, before, suddenly, the meteor exploded into much smaller pieces. No, I was supposed to rule the land with this strength. The man yelled out, trying to bring up anything to defend himself from the incoming drill. However, he wasn't fast enough, and the drill finally reached him. However, instead of piercing through him, the tip of the drill opened up, the vines that made it up wrapping around the man and keeping him still. He tried trashing around, or using his quirk to break out, but it was no use. The trigger had already run out, and he was back to being weak. Abara walked up to the man, limping slightly due to the fact that one of the chunks of the meteorite hit her leg, but that didn't slow down. The two of them locked eyes, and the man let out a screech, thrashing around even harder against his prison at the deathly cold look the teen was giving him. "Stay back," he called out, using the last of his strength to throw a boulder at Abara. However, her leftover vines caught it while it was flying towards her, before crushing it, dropping the tiny leftover chunks in front of the man. "No, don't you dare come any closer." The man screamed again, but it was too late. And with a quick chop to the neck, he was out like a light, and Abara could finally breathe out a sigh of relief. Looking to the side, she saw Izuku just now finishing the projectile shooting villains, one of his hands limp at his side, before putting his staff back on his back and giving her a thumbs up. Abara smiled, before slowly starting to walk towards the other team, happy that this was finally over. However, before they could get close to one another, Izuku's eyes widened, and he jumped, pushing her to the side. A beam of lightning suddenly hit her friend, who was standing just where she was. "Izuku," she called out, but something was weird. Instead of the lightning hurting him, it was instead wrapping around him, coating his body like a second skin. Wait, no, it was replacing his skin. She looked in shock as his naturally green eyes changed their color to a stark electric blue color, small nubs forming on the edge of his forehead. However, what shocked her the most was the third eye that sprouted in the middle of the forehead, locked directly at the man shooting the beam at him. More. A voice, different from her friend's, called out from Izuku's body, before he started stalking towards the skull-masked man, not at all bothered by the discharge. The man trembled at the sight, before shooting an even larger blast. This, however, had the opposite effect of what he was hoping for, because the lightning just fed Izuku's new form. Soon enough, his skin had been completely replaced by a mixture of lightning and flesh. His fingers had elongated, sharpening into claws. The nubs on his forehead had turned into full-blown horns, and a tail, made of the same lightning-like substance as the rest of his skin, had grown, swinging from side to side. "What the hell are you?" the villain called out, stopping his blast to look at the teenager. Izuku scoffed, before suddenly appearing in front of the villain, grabbing him by the throat. The man panicked, hitting the teen to try and escape, but it only seemed to agitate him more. "Get out of my friend's body, curse," she said, hoping his transformation hadn't been completed. The creature looked at her in contemplation, before barking out a laugh, throwing the man he was holding away as if he was a sack of potatoes. "Oh, You're quite brave to try and tell me what to do," the creature said, his tail wrapping around her shin. "Now, how about yo-huh?" he muttered out, looking down as he noticed his skin turning back to normal. "He's getting control back this fast?" the creature asked, his tail and horns going back into his body. Then he looked back at Abara, a smirk appearing on his fanged mouth. "Know this, Abara Shiozaki. This won't be the last you see of me." And with that final message, the transformation was completely undone, and Izuku slumped down in her arms. Abara breathed a sigh of relief, looking down at her friend. Thank goodness, she couldn't watch another person close to her get taken over by their quirk. Dash 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 dash. Yuta looked around him, at the passed-out villains lying on the floor. He had been lucky to be transported to the downpour zone, since Lightning God conducted really easily through the falling water. He decided not to waste any more time, heading off towards where he assumed the exit of the zone would be, when he suddenly felt a sharp head pain. Alright, this was happening way too much, as he felt this same sharp pang all throughout his fight, ever since he activated Lightning God. Why did his head decide to hurt now of all times? Was he overusing his quirk? No, that was unlikely, as he was keeping to the 5-minute timer and hadn't tried pushing it recently. Was it something else then? Maybe he was getting ill. Too distracted with his thoughts, he didn't notice a villain sneak up from behind him, raising an axe, ready to strike down the team. But something deep within him noticed, and a quirk he kept locked inside of him forced itself out. All of a sudden, just before the axe could connect, a giant white hand grabbed hold of the villain. Said man looked off to the side from where the hand was coming from, and what he noticed shocked him to his core. Floating there was what could only be described as a monster. It had a large white muscular upper body that led into a black tail-like appendage, instead of legs. Its face was completely bare, except for its mouth, which had dozens of sharp needle-like teeth. And lastly, many tube-like things were protruding from the back of its head, connecting down to its back. The man screamed in fear, trying to break out of the creature's grasp, when it suddenly spoke up. "You dare try to hurt Yuta?" it screamed, its grip on him tightening, and he felt his bones start to crack. The team that he tried to attack seemed just as shocked as him, before speaking up. Wait, Rika don't. But it was already too late. The creature, Rika, didn't listen and continued squeezing him tighter and tighter, and the man felt his organs start to collapse. And soon enough, he was completely crushed, dead. The creature disappeared shortly after that, leaving Yuta to stare down at the body of the dead villain. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, before starting to walk towards the entrance again, his mind filled with regret over what happened. However, he couldn't fully block out the pleased feeling from the quirk. Dash 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 dash. Katsuki blew up another villain, not caring for a second what had happened to him. His week just couldn't get any worse. His best friend was hiding something from him, and from how it sounded, it was no doubt important. On the day he was going to beat answers out of him, a bunch of idiots decided they wanted to attack Ua, which most likely meant they were going to have to postpone their match until next week. Ingrate. However, worst of all, he couldn't even take out his frustrations on the villains here, as they were all just a bunch of small fry weaklings. Whatever, he had bigger fish to fry. Like that missed bastard. Oh, he would make him regret being born. Dash 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 dash. Izuku and Abara walked down the mountain, quiet as they did. Both of them had a lot of things on their minds, but neither was willing to speak up about it. Abara was worried. Her friend had just gone through something that seemed so similar to her torture experience, it couldn't just be a coincidence. But if his quirk had been forcefully evolved, he wouldn't have been able to go back to normal. Like how Yuri couldn't go back to normal. As for Izuku, he couldn't help but wonder what happened to him. When the beam of lightning hit him, all he could feel was pure power. But he also wasn't in control. It felt as if he was just simply in the backseat, watching as someone else controlled his body. Of course, it felt like that. I was controlling the body after all. Plus, the new occupant of his head was really annoying. What does that even mean? What even are you? He asked, trying not to let his inner conflict show. Are you one of the past holders of One for All? He asked, hoping this was just a more advanced stage of the voices he was already hearing, not an entirely new one. Nope, the voice answered, and Izuku could almost feel it shaking its head in disappointment. We spend our entire lives together, and you can't even recognize me now that I can talk. You're hurting my feelings, the voice said, and Izuku felt his head start to hurt. Stop speaking in riddles. Just tell me what you are. At that the voice sighed, but seemingly agreed. And then, Izuku felt lightning god pulse within him, the same way it had sometimes done in the past. No way, he thought, feeling his quirk pulse harder in what seemed like laughter. Yes way, nice to finally be able to talk to you, Izu. His quirk replied, and Izuku almost passed out on the spot. However, before he could continue speaking to it, he heard Abara finally break the silence between them. Midoriya, I wanted to ask you something, she said, and at Izuku's nod, she continued on. Have you ever seen a black-haired man with a scar running across his forehead? She asked, looking at him with an unreadable expression. He thought about it for a second, before shaking his head. I can't say that rings any bells. Could you give me a few more details about how he looked? He asked, and Abara nodded, her expression souring slightly. Now that I think about it, he looked a little bit like you. Messy black hair, freckles, dark green eyes. Moderately well built and about 180 centimeters tall, I think. She added on, and Izuku felt like that sounded somewhat familiar. He just couldn't figure out from where. Does that sound like someone we've seen before? He asked his quirk, but he could feel the confusion radiating off of it. She effectively just described our dad, didn't she? Except the whole scar things. Izuku nodded at that, but there was a slight problem with that theory. Dad has been dead from before we were born though, he thought, and he could feel Lightning God agree with him. Yeah, well, hell if I know. He's the only person I can think of that matches her description. So, in the end, they hadn't seen this mystery man Abara was talking about. Well, I guess I'll just tell Abara we haven't met anyone like that. Ooh, Abara, not Shiozaki, his quirk teased, and Izuku felt one of his eyes twitch. Shut up. Then, he quickly turned back to his friend, before shaking his head. Sorry, but I can't say I've ever met someone like that. I could help you find them though, no. Izuku slammed his mouth shut, reeling back from Abara's sudden scream. She seemed to realize what she had done though, as she cleared her throat, before speaking up again. I mean, you don't need to. I was just curious if you had seen him, she said, and he could detect a hint of nervousness in her voice. Before he could ask her about it, though, he felt danger sense go off. At the same time, Lightning God pulsed in anger. Behind, the quirk said, and Izuku turned around, noticing two figures standing where they had come from. One of them was a fairly tall orange-skinned man, dressed in clothes more fitting for a stripper than a villain. The other, however, looked nothing like a human. It was a short thing, with a giant head and limbs sticking out of it. It had a face on the top of said head and another mouth just below it. Its skin was also a turquoise color, blood dripping down it from its mouths and eyes. Those things ain't human. They feel more like me than you, his quirk warned, and Izuku nodded slightly. In his time looking at them, Abara had turned around, and was staring directly at them. However, Izuku could not explain the look on her face. It wasn't fear, nor was it anger. Instead, it almost looked like a mix of both, with an underlying dread of finishing off the package. However, before he could ask her about it, the orange-skinned man spoke. Greetings, Izuku Midoriya and Abara Shiozaki. I am Eso, And this is my younger brother Ketchizu," he said, looking at the two of them with a smirk on his face. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.